has drifted back a bit. Marcy sitting here quite low in the saddle, as I mentioned earlier on, looking comfortable at this particular stage. So is Renero. There's Bolsorano confirmation coming up that he's drifting off the back of the pack, and Marcy Casino, if he keeps this up, he could get another hatful of points in the King of the Mountains competition at the top of this climb, which should, I want to say, make sure he gets to Paris in it, but he's been very lively in the intermediate climbs we've had so far, which have not been the as tough as the ones we're watching today, with the odd category climbs causing havoc with the field. And we've probably only got now round about what's he happening here? Is he going away, Renaro? Oh, Marcy's going with him. Yeah, Marcy won a stage in the Critérium International. Stage 2 it was, when the Casino team got 1, 2 and 3. Marcy was second, Ellie was third, Hamburger, Ellie was second, Hamburger was third. 1, 2 and 3 for them at that particular occasion. And Marcy just showing in the Critérium International that he could climb, and he's used that to good form. He won the Tour of the Mediterranean in February 11th to 15, Marcy, right at the start of the season, with Hamburger in second spot, Veronk third, Jonker fourth, Bartoli fifth, and Gujol second in sixth spot. So that was early on this season. So Marcy, having changed over now to the Casino team, yet another man has benefited by that move and been prepared to have a go like all the Casino riders do. And so it's just him now with Renero of the Cofidis team, with the rain bucketing down. You see, it's probably hardly let up all day. They're soaked to the skin, these riders, but they're still pressing on to try and get through to the finish at Les Deux Alpes ahead of what's left of the main peloton.
Escape with Hertz from only $39 a day.
But relay for simplicity. Grand Hotel for refined comfort, whichever suits your budget best. How about Mercure for our next trip to Earth?
Relais, Hotel, Grand Hotel Mercure, your kind of comfort and price, plus the keys to the city.
Mercure, Accor, we care.
Sportbild. Die ganze Welt des Spitzensports. Jeden Mittwoch neu.
Back live to the Tour de France with Fissmann. Heating technology, have fun.
As we come back then, we've got two men down the road at the moment, and here Tyler Hamilton has launched himself off the main pack to try and catch back our two breakaways. Wedged in between Marcy and Renero is Serrano of the Calme team, as Tyler Hamilton sets off for the main group. We just have time now to talk to Mario Zolin, who's the customer service manager of Campagnola. We do have the Campagnola people with us today, and Stephen Roche just going to have a chat about Campagnola equipment and the way these boys are using it today. Stephen, over to you.
Mario, well done. Thank you for coming along to join us here today at our commentary here in Eurosport. Today is a very heavy stage, a lot of rain, climbs, descents and everything else. What kind of work does Campagnola do to actually develop the brakes so that the brakes can actually work in this kind of weather?
Well, these are normal brakes. We do not do any special features for this kind of climate. Normally they are good for dry conditions and wet conditions, as it is today.
Are there any special brake blocks being used today?
No, not at all, no. They are the same brakes.
What about, like, we often, in dry weather, for example, it's very difficult not to have any crackling noise and chains and everything else. On weather like today, where you have all this kind of rain, is there any special oil you can use or grease you can use on your chain to stop it from getting all clogged up and going all dry from the rain?
Yeah, well, it is very important to choose the best oil for these wet conditions, to keep the performance of the parts all the time, even, of course, in these very heavy conditions.
What about, for example, brake blocks?
Yeah.
On a stage like today, do the brake blocks use much easier in the wet weather than they do on the dry weather?
Yeah, of course, yes.
And is there any, for example, on a day like today, is there any danger of brake blocks wearing out on just one day after heavy rain?
No. There's not any particular danger. No, not at all.
What about the famous gear change now on the Campagnolo, where they have the Ego Power gear change? Is it a problem when it gets wet?
No, not at all. No. They work perfectly in wet conditions without any kind of problem. Not at all.
Does Campagnolo have a development strategy? Where do you develop all of the Campagnolo equipment?
Well, we first make some tests in the laboratory. Then we pass our parts to the amateurs riders, and they make several tests. And of course, they use always the same bike, and that's a very good, way to test the parts with the amateurs. Finally, we pass the parts to the professional riders. That is the end, and then we start to produce the parts.
And the Campagnolo equipment that the riders are riding here today,
yeah.
Is the Campagnolo equipment you see in the shops the very same, or is there a difference between them?
They are exactly the same. No difference at all. No, not at all. They are the same parts.
For example, the model, 1999 model, for example,
yeah.
When does it normally come out? Are the riders today, the professional riders today, riding this already?
Some of the parts, yes. Some.
Basically testing them?
Yes. Well, they are already tested, been tested. And as I told you before, first we gave the parts to the amateurs and finally to the professional riders. And some of the parts are on the stage today, on the bikes of Pantani, Urik, and some of the riders, important riders.
Okay, Mario, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Mario Zollin, for talking to us about the development of Campagnolo. In the programme, a bit back, I did mention to you that how there was a special development by Campagnolo where the rear axle went up and down in the rear fork ends. I was just trying to find the chap who sent me. Oh, the gap is now 4 minutes and 6 seconds then for our 2 leaders back to the main peloton, wedged in between his Serrano somewhere. 4 minutes and 6 seconds to the Ulrich group from our 2 leaders we've got now. And I mentioned in our earlier programme how one of our viewers sent in to me a little illustration of a gear that was used by Fausto Coppi, where you didn't have all the gubbins hanging out just ahead of the rear hub, but you actually had the serrations in the rear fork ends, and there were splines on the rear axle. You undid a lever on the seat stay, and then you're allowed with the second lever to take the chain over to whichever sprocket you want, and once you pedal your way back into that sprocket, you then locked it back in again with this like quick release mechanism. That was the early Campagnolo gear mechanism, which I think they either call the Paris-Roubaix or the Rosa gear, something like that, and I much admired it when it first came out. It was a very simple system. The only trouble was it didn't give you the width of gears that you want now, and it was used by a chap called Dave Keeler, who broke the Land's John O'Groats record, and also when I rode in the first Tour of Ireland, that was a long time ago. Dave Keeler also had this unique Campagnolo gear mechanism on the back, where it was, say, riding up and down. I don't know if you ever saw it before your time, Steve, when this Campagnolo gear system, where there weren't the mechanism that shifted the chain backwards and forwards, just the chain went round the back, and it went up and down in slots in the rear fork ends. And Fausto Coppi used to use it. You could unhook it down the back, turn back and knock the lever around on the chain. A bit before your time.
What age do you think I am, Dave?
A bit before your time.
What age do you think I am?
Well, here I have a programme from 1953, the Antostal race, which started in Dublin, you see. All went round here, went down to Enniscorthy, all round here, all back there. And a fellow called Dave Keeler actually rode the Campagnolo system in that race in 1953. I can tell you, because I rode the back with him and watched him change the system. There I see, a bit of history for you.
That's
Claudia, 1953.
Yeah, it was. I actually born in 59 myself, Dave, so it was a little before my time.
Little before
and things have changed.
Things have changed since then. They've got equal wheels rather than the big wheel at the front and the small wheel at the back now.
Exactly.
Right, back to racing then. The last time check we had, the gap was more than 4 minutes back to the group you've got here now. And still, despite the pressure that's been put on by the Cofidis team, Ulrich has not been distanced at all. He's looked very strong. His team have come up and sheltered him, and then when they've recovered, if they've dropped off the back, have come on again now. But the group here more or less intact, and so must be about 40-50 riders, and one or two who got blasted out on the climb of the Col de Telegraph. will be working their way back now for the climb of the Col de Galibier. Once they're over the top of this one, there's a thumping great descent down the other side, 34 kilometres into the valley, and then straight up to Les Deux, where a very bedraggled crowd of people are standing under any sort of shelter they can get, under the awnings, under the umbrellas. I've been very patient. I've seen people standing here for God knows how many hours. We start this morning our commentary live on Eurosport at 11 o'clock, or just past 11 o'clock Central European time, and it's now coming up towards quarter to 4. So we've had these people standing out here, soaked to the skin, coming up to something like the thick end of 5 hours, and they're waiting all the day just to see the riders come in here at the end of the stage. So they'll be rewarded by seeing who wins the stage, but of course as to whether the yellow jersey will stay on the shoulders of Ulrich. Garcia Costa, always a man prepared to have a go, tries to get up there too, leading to some still Marcy and Reinero grind their way to the front. Last time check we had, they were 4 minutes up on the main group here you see on your screen, which contains the main contenders for the crown today.
Inside this engine, the 21st century has already begun. Mitsubishi's gasoline direct injection, a breakthrough in engine technology that benefits not only the way we drive, but also the way we live. Mitsubishi GDI. GDI takes you further.
At Mercure, they're just perfect. They know the city inside out and offer 3 levels of comfort. Relay, for simplicity. Hotel, for attentive service. And Grand Hotel for refined comfort, whichever suits your budget best. How about Mercure for our next trip to Earth?
Relais, Hotel, Grand Hotel Mercure. Your kind of comfort and price, plus the keys to the city.
Mercure. Accor, we care.
Mit der Börse ist es wie bei der Tour de France. Wer auf Dauer vorne sein will, muss auf die Gegebenheiten des Marktes schnell und flexibel reagieren können. Mit DWS Trading Fonds ohne Ausgabeaufschlag. Rufen Sie jetzt an 0185 10 11 10. Wir sagen Ihnen gern Details zu Idee und Konzept. DWS, die Wertpapierspezialisten.
Pilsner aus dem Herzen der Natur.
Back live to the Tour de France with Astra, the satellite system.
Well, I hate to say this because every time we go to a break, something happens. You think, blast, why didn't they leave the adverts off? Because we've just seen a sizzling attack from Luc Leblanc, who bombed off the front, and then Mayer also off the front, and it was quickly nullified by the telecom team. That was some effort by the telecom team. And Escartin's going,
Bogart's there as well, Dave.
I owe him 1,000 apologies. I said earlier in the programme that Escartin would follow wheels and we'd seldom see him attack, that was the way he rode things. And he's going off now. Well, on the general classification,
5:16 back there.
Is ninth this morning, yes. So again, it's put Telecom under pressure. That's a great thing now. If they are all prepared to attack, Stephen, surely that's going to really make life a bit difficult. Julik hasn't moved yet, has he?
No, but it's the thing is not only to attack Davis, but all the leaders, all the top men attack it in turn, and then if the duo happens to get away, well, they actually ride with each other rather than waiting for the bunch to come back up again. Is it Blanc going again, Dave, on the left hand side of the screen? LeBlanc was really in good form today. This time now, there's a little kind of a minute of hesitation now.
Well, LeBlanc tried on the first climb of the day as we came up over the Col de la Croix de Fer. He just had a little sortie off the front, ripped the thing to pieces, then drifted back in again. And just a few minutes ago, we saw him do exactly the same thing yet again. And he's coming up now then, climbing up here, trying to catch up with our leaders. Last time check we had, there was some 4 minutes ahead of LeBlanc on the road. And he's got a really big job to try and pull that one back.
Dave. Look at the screen here, on his big ring, Dave.
That hurts, doesn't it? Well, he's going up here, and we've been up the Galibier 49 times in all, as LeBlanc going up here now. And looking down the list, I can see in 1952 that Fausto Coppi was the first man over the top of the climb of the Galibier, 1952. That was the year he went on to finish up the top of the Alps d'Huez, the first time he finished on the Alps d'Huez in 1952. He was a great man who was riding in those days, Bianchi and Campagnola. We've just been talking to the Campagnola people here, and this man riding for the Polti team rides on a Coppi bicycle, an aluminium version, which has been, as I tested in cycling recently. Yes, and Bogart's gone straight up towards Escartin. We've now got Bogart, we've got LeBlanc, we've got Escartin on the attack, and up in front there's still Rinero, as I'm not surprised to see big Matt man going back, Bourguignon, and so Bogart goes, Escartin goes, but no reaction at the moment from the yellow jersey.
Well, there's a reaction, Dave, but they haven't been able to get it together. He's probably waiting for Ulic to have a go, Dave. Escartin and Bogart's coming across now to Luc Leblanc. A great bit of reinforcement for Leblanc. Leblanc on his own, Dave, I wouldn't have given him much hope. But the fact that him getting Bogart and Escartin coming across, three of them really good climbers, they can do a lot of damage.
This climb then, 20 kilometres of climbing, as they're now beginning to sort things out. They've really got to punch a great hole at the top, because now as we're looking at Ulrich back here, he's still got Bobby Julich just hovering beside him. And what would Bobby Julich be doing then right now? Is he just sort of counting the time as...
Where's Pontani, Dave? There's Pontani there in the back. He hasn't done a thing yet, Dave. He must move soon, Pontani.
Or is he waiting to the final climb?
I don't know if he waits to the final climb, and if those three guys are still in the front, it's too late. So Pontani will have to analyse now. Will the yellow jersey Ulrich take over himself and ride across to Leblanc, Bogarts, or will he let in doing that take the risk of blowing out Rees, a man he might need later on? He has to wait for a second now and see how Rees is, to see if Rees will actually be able to kind of maintain an effort, but he's maintain the speed to maintain a reasonable gap between LeBlanc. It's getting very dangerous though at the moment, Dave, because Rees hasn't got the legs. Ulrich now moves to the front now himself.
And I think also there looks like Hamburger, 7th overall in general classification, 4 minutes 44 seconds down. The Casino rider with a little yellow hat on then, just now getting in behind Ulrich. Ulrich's looking around now, he's in trouble.
He's looking around.
Lost his men.
He's in trouble, Dave. He's losing, he's lost. He knows if he accelerates, he will lose Rees. But the way his head is dropping down there, Dave, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not on a great day. We saw him in the Pyrenees the other day. He wasn't that great. His shoulders are moving from side to side. We said he wasn't going well. There he is now looking for his gears, Dave.
That's a bad sign when you start looking down between your legs to see where your gears are, eh?
Well, at the same time, Dave, when he puts his hands down the bars, he normally accelerates. Here he is now, Dave.
He's done it then. We said he was in trouble. He's gone away and he's taken Julich with him. So he must have just looked like he was going through a bad patch. But yet again, Ulrich will not go down without a fight as Pantani starts to come across. Pantani coming up then to Julich as now they haul back in Garcia Costa. Pantani starts to move up, accelerating to catch up with Julich, who's still on Ulrich's wheel.
Wow. What a stage, Dave, and a hard bit still has to come.
Yes, it's all built to be. Hey, it's not over yet. The old fat lady hasn't started to sing. In fact, it won't happen until we get to Paris, because so many things can happen in a tour this long. We've got another big day tomorrow and a moderate day the day after that, when the climbers will be going hard. And then up in front now, Bogart and together with LeBlanc are beginning to pull back our breakaway group.
Very impressive, Dave. What are we saying there about Ulrich there a few minutes ago? Well, I'll take what I said back anyway, Dave. But at the same time, the day is going to be a very hard day for him now, because he's going to find himself in front with a top 6 in general all around him. A very uncomfortable position for himself to be in.
Well, he's caught up then with LeBlanc, who went away with Escartin. Nice move, and Bogart. Julich now just moving up alongside Ulrich.
Looking very comfortable, Dave. Very comfortable indeed.
Yeah, well, they've all started to attack him, and so surely now LeBlanc looks back to see Pantani in there. De Grandi for the Mappe team is up there as well at the moment. De Grandi this morning lying in 18 spots, 7 minutes 12 seconds down. Hasn't done much so far, he's just following the wheels. Pantani this morning starting out, where was he on general classification? So he's quickly looking down. He's 4th overall, 3 minutes and 1 second down. So he's done nothing yet so far. And he can't afford to leave it right till the end though, surely, because he wants to have at least 5 to 6 minutes in hand by the time we come out of the mountains the day after tomorrow, if he's going to have a chance of taking the yellow jersey into Paris. Would you say so? Good lead like that, 2 days from now? Time trial yet to come. Sorry about the picture, by the way. Let me remind you that we do not have a helicopter flying. because the conditions are bad. Riche has now been well and truly lashayed, as you see here, and they're getting up slowly but surely toward the top of the climb. We do have a fixed camera there and a time running to tell you what's going on. The reason the pictures are so grotty is they've been going up. I repeat myself, for those who've been listening all the way through the program, since we started this morning at just gone 11 o'clock, the pictures are going up in the sky to a fixed-wing aircraft, not to our normal helicopter. So it's a lot further up in the skies. We look back now at the moment when Ulrich decided he had to do something to sort this lot out. And he concentrated hard, got down on the handlebars, and then pounded down the road to pull back Escartin and LeBlanc in a demonstration of sheer strength and tenacity from this young German, who is giving people here a lot to talk about. Another slow motion look at Ulrich when he's now without his teammates, being blown out the back with Bobby Julich just behind him. He began to show that he had all the efforts there, all the strength, all the determination to stay with the people who are challenging for his yellow jersey. But up in front still, Renero doing a lovely ride, a great ride here on the front with Mappe in the polka dot jersey. King of the Mountain is still wending their way up towards the top of the Col de Galibier. Special prize at the top in memory of Andy de Grange, who was the founder figure of the Tour de France. Escartin goes yet again.
The man that we said, or that you said, wasn't attacked, Dave. We've been patching us all out today, Dave.
I should go and eat one of your straw hats. They've got these special straw hats being given out by the Coeur de Lion cheese people. And I think I better go and eat one of those straw hats. I must put plenty of mayonnaise on it, though, I think. I won't eat my stride, because my stride I brought with me as well as the ex-president of the Pickwick Bicycle Club, that all-male, oldest cycling club in the world. I shouldn't dare eat that one. I should probably be drummed out of the club. Escartin on his way.
It's great
confusing all of us.
having a go at the Kelme Eurosport team, Dave.
Kelme Costa Blanca Eurosport to put in the right order in case we get me shouted at and we don't get a nice holiday down there sometime. Right, so there he goes. And look at his nice style. I love the way he bounces round here. He's got you may think it's not right, Steve, but I always thought it's fairly sort of...
Look, Dave, what are they doing here, Dave?
Riding their bicycles.
Yeah, but I mean, say, let Ulrich do a bit of the riding as well.
And Reese is back
again, yeah. 3 confidence riders in there. You know, this is the hard part now, Dave. About 7k to go now to the top. This is where it starts getting... It's the hard part. It has been hard all the way up. This is the harder part.
He's coming away, though. He is coming away now. Can Julich then deliver the blow, or is he just going to show...
and LeBlanc's following behind, Dave.
Is he just showing...
LeBlanc's gone again, Dave.
Yeah, is that he's got the power. They're 1 minute 11 seconds down as they're pulling back Max Chandry, who tried manfully to stay with that lead group, but Max then powering his way up here. Good to see him back in action after that terrible crash last November, but he's no match for these very special mountain climbers. Look at them. They're like little whippets on wheels, aren't they?
They are, Dave. Yeah, I'm surprised that Pantani didn't try and go with Escartin, because Pantani would be a similar climber as Escartin himself.
Perhaps Pantani's only looking for stage victories then after all.
I don't know, Dave, but still, it's... I would have thought, like, still, Pantani knows he's very close. He's close to he's on the podium now if things go as the way they are, because with Jalabert behind, Pantani will take over Jalabert's third place on GC. But at the same time, I think that Pantani must take 2 minutes out of Bobby Julich to actually take over the second place, whereas Julich will probably do a better time trial than Pantani next Friday. So I think if he wants to get second place, he'll have to move.
There we are, Escartin chasing after our 2 leaders, still at the moment going up toward the top of the Col de Galibier, and the attempt by Cofidis to rip the legs off Julich. Ulrich hasn't quite come to it at the moment. Sorry about the picture problem we've been having. You know that it's not easy for us to bring you the action from the race today, but we're going to take a short break. I hope you'll stay with us, and we'll do the best we can to bring you the action on Eurosport.
Millionen Menschen träumen den gleichen Traum. Von einem Leben in Geborgenheit. Von Raum zur persönlichen Entfaltung. Von einer Zukunft ohne finanzielle Sorgen. Diesen Traum können Sie bauen. Mit Bausparen und dem Euro schaffen Sie eine stabile Währung für eine sichere Zukunft. Schwäbisch Hall. Auf diese Steine können Sie bauen.
What do you see?
What you see is a car that offers the ultimate in drivability and dependability. What you see is a car that not only looks better, but has a body armor that lasts. What you see is a car whose every detail is checked to ensure it's as reliable as it is ingenious. And what you see is a car that is as economically beautiful as it is beautiful to behold. What you see is a Hyundai, so prepare to want one.
Back live to the Tour de France with Licher Pilsner.
Still going up the climb, slow motion of one of the spectators urging on the Cofidis rider Renero at the front, massive for the polka dot jersey just behind him. They're still out there in the lead, but the action going on behind them that they're reeling in the Parizin, who had been in that six-man group start of the climb today, and Escartin bouncing his way up here. It really has caused some trouble further back down the mountain because Escartin was just 5:16 down, and LeBlanc are going on the front. And where's Julik gone to? Pantani.
Well, Julik's gone there, but we had Bogart has gone in front there. Bogart has gone in front, so LeBlanc was actually gone to try and get him.
Pantani's on Ulrich's wheel.
But the tactics here, I think, Dave, is to make sure that Rees does not get back in. Rees is 20 seconds back now off this group, because they know that if we get to the Deux Alps, the climb is not as hard as this one, and Rees will be a great help to Ulrich on the final climb. So if they can keep him off the back now and do a very fast ascent, Rees won't get back on.
Pantani attacks. Pantani goes, at long last he's taken off, Pantani's on his way, and Ulrich now has got to respond yet again. The whole of the commentary point here has erupted as all the commentators have suddenly seen the man they've waited for. He's waiting for LeBlanc to come through as well. He looked back to see if anyone was coming, and LeBlanc is coming across, and if these two get together, if they've had the nod and say, let's ride, let's ride, let's ride, they're going to make life very difficult indeed for Ulrich. But certainly Bobby Julik was struggling further back down there as Pantani sets off now. He's got a lot of gap to make up though. He was fourth this morning on general classification, 3 minutes and 1 second down on Ulrich. But he's now taken from Jalabert, who's way down the mountainside, so he's definitely in third spot. Can he move up to second? Can he move up to first? As Ulrich now has to do the work, so Julik can just sit on the wheel, can't he?
Yeah, but Ulrich now is totally isolated now. He has Bogarts and he has Ulrich there with him, so I wonder will these come along and ride with him now, Dave? I hope not. I hope they leave Ulrich ride a bit for himself and then try and counter-attack him, because I can see Ulrich in the final climb, he'll have no mercy. He has got good legs today. We've seen it so far on the climb that once we got to the final climb, he'll have no mercy at all on anybody.
I'm sorry if your viewers back at home think that we're being disrespectful to the man in the yellow jersey, but what we do like is a lot of action, isn't it, Stephen?
Yeah,
we're not being anyway negative, we're not destroying that.
Every respect for
the lad's a brilliant rider. He won last year, he was second the year before that, he's past junior world champion, amateur world champion. We've got great respect for his riding ability, and we love to see him in action. The Telecom team, though, has been a bit like a steamroller, grinding everything out in sight and flattening everything in sight. We're such a strong team. But nevertheless, now we're seeing the bike racers, one after the other. And this is the attacking sort of Tour de France I love.
Because gone, Dave.
I mean, for so many years, Stephen, Indurain just put a cold, clammy hand onto things, didn't he? And so we're now seeing so many riders prepared to have a go. It really is opening up the race. And all of you, I know Pantani's got supporters back in Great Britain. There are supporters for Ulrich. There are supporters for different riders. Julik, they've all got their interest in these riders now. Jalabert support, I'm sorry, but he's out the back right now. But Pantani, and when he gets this climb, by the way, we drove up last night, Stephen, to get here for the commentary early this morning. And all the way along, we get toward the top. The Pantani fan clubs are out there. I'm sure they've erupted seeing this on their portable television sets, and they're urging him on because they want him to win the stage today, don't they? Eh?
Definitely. But Pantani will have to wipe out his 3-minute deficit today, and then tomorrow go on the attack again tomorrow. Tomorrow's stage, of course, going over to Madeleine, there's some 30 kilometers downhill down to the finish. So Pantani will have to go again tomorrow and get another 2 or 3 minutes out of Ulrich if he wants to try, if he wants to believe himself to be in contention for the Tour. Jean-Claude Robin's there as well.
Yes, they've got two riders actually, the US Postal team, because that's Balanowski with him as well. Dallas Balanowski, the Polish rider, is riding up there with Stella Robin. So the US Postal team, this is a tremendous change that the people we're seeing here. Over there, Bobby Julich from America. Two riders from an American-sponsored team. We saw Motorola for many years being very strong in the game, but US Postal been building up a nice little team with the youngish riders that are now in there, showing they can climb with the best of them.
I wonder, Dave, and as we were saying earlier on there, we're saying that Ulrich looks a little bit of difficulty as Pantani tries to go away in the zone now. But I wonder we were saying that I wonder was were we half right, Dave, and Ulrich was basically throwing a bluff. He's actually going across to show them, okay, listen lads, I've got a lot more than the legs than you have. So he tried it, he got across, and he wiped out the deficit that he had out on the LeBlanc at that time. But now he seems to be paying a little bit for that effort. I may be wrong again, but at the same time, he's waiting a little bit too long, in my opinion, to close down the gap on Pantani.
Well, Pantani then, of course, when it comes to time trial, he can rip several minutes out of Pantani, so Ulrich must be now mentally working out what he's got to do, and particularly Ulrich is quite a useful time trialist, but not at the same standard as Ulrich. So Bobby Julich has got to do something to pull a few bit time out today. Perhaps he's waiting for the finished climb today, but it's going to take a strong man at the end of it all. The time trial is undulating, isn't it, Stephen?
It is, yeah. It's very undulating from Monti-Solimine down to Le Creusot. It's very undulating, and there's uphill finish as well. So it's going to be it'll be a very difficult circuit to know who or many minutes that Ulrich can give to the likes of Pantani, because Pantani, if you remember, has done a fabulous time trial in the recent Tour of Italy. So he can't perform. He's just not regular. He's just not consistent in his time trials.
He now has a lead of 40 seconds, does Pantani. And LeBlanc at 22 seconds. LeBlanc still wedged out in no man's land. He powers up here on his Bianchi bicycle. Unusual bike with a slightly sloping top tube, as you may see just in a moment. And as I said before in our programme, he rides a 75-degree seat, 71-degree head on his bicycle. And that's Pantani then, the specialist climber, on his way up then, trying to catch up leaders. The pirate himself then, beautiful, nice style that he's got here. We saw him win the stage up there in the Pyrenees. We've seen him last year, but he's won 5 stages in the Tour de France now. Can he make it 6th today?
We can see the difference, Dave. The other day in the Pyrenees, we were saying that Pantani was on a great day because he wasn't jumping around as much as he normally would be doing. Today he looks a lot fresher. The legs are going around a lot quicker. He seems a lot more sure of himself, but he is on a much better day today. Although maybe not on his best day, he's on a much better day.
on a much worse day too. It's very bad, but there again,
exactly,
Stephen,
yeah.
I was saying earlier before he came along, isn't it true to say that when there's been rain that there's more oxygen in the air than when the sun bakes down and bounces off the rocks and makes it very like riding in an oven?
Well, it is, yes, because normally you'd have the heat coming up off the rocks, up off the ground. You have the heat coming down from the sun down the back of your neck, and of course you have the heat, the interior body heat being generated by the effort you're making by pushing the pedals round. So the weather today being like this is a big change from yesterday, of course, but at the same time, having a bit of rain or a bit of cold weather does revitalise the whole system and give you a bit of breather.
Well, I revitalised the system last night. Nice bit of smoked salmon, smoked haddock, and a rather smallish but very warming vodka to warm me up last night. A cold meal with a little drop like that because it was getting a bit chilly last night. But right now it's getting even chillier still at the finish, where we're wondering if Pantani can make it through to the finish. Pantani, well, I don't know, he's riding comfortably. They've still got some gap to pull back, hasn't
he's still not as comfortable, David, as we've been used to seeing him over the last couple of years. But still, he's in the front. I must say, Dave, behind, you weren't looking very comfortable either. So it all boils down to the same thing. At the same time, it's a very fast descent now off the Galibier, some 30 kilometres long descent down to the bottom of the Alps, the Col les Deux Alpes.
And these are the riders he's got to catch at the moment, because we've got just up in front still the breakaway group. In fact, it's reformed. At one time, Renero and Marcy were clear, but they looked like a couple of riders got back up to them now in that breakaway group. So there's 4 men for Pantani to catch down the road, and behind him, about 40 seconds back to the group containing Ulrich, who's got to ride now, and Ulrich is on his own, and a lot of riders still round about him as Pantani moves the sunglasses off.
Yeah, Blanche is some 39 seconds behind Pantani, and Scartin is 11 seconds behind. So if they could only come together on the descent, but Ulrich's group here seems to be in a little bit of difficulty. nobody seems to be taking up the relay as yet. But at the same time, this group here on the descent, if they really descend very fast, could close the gap down to Pantani.
Now he's now got 1 minute lead, Pantani over Ulrich, so he's now just 2 minutes and 1 second down overall on the general classification. Just up in front of him, Renero still riding hard then. 1 minute 13 seconds is the gap back down then. So Pantani's gone away from Escartin and LeBlanc, and Ulrich back there, 1:13. Wow, what a day we've got. Miserable for the spectators along the side of the road. Have sympathy with them. They've been out all night in those camper vans. It's not been too cold for them actually, but they've been standing out there in the damp waiting for the race to come through. They've seen the cavalcade go through all the vehicles, publicising various products have gone ahead just to give them some entertainment, and then comes the lull before the storm, and the storm comes in the shape of the riders thundering up the mountain. But one thing about being a spectator on the side of the road today, even if it's a bit damp, you're going to see a lot of riders, because you only watch these people on Eurosport. We're watching the front end of the race. Bear in mind we started out this morning with 147 riders, and we're concentrating on no more than about 17. So 130 riders all the way back down the climb. Many of them will be struggling to stay inside the time limit today.
Well, the US Postal team here, John Roban, are riding in the front. I don't know why, but they should maybe try attacking rather than just pumping away in the front, and maybe try and get away and guarantee themselves in the place in the first few.
Well, Baranovsky lies 16th overall, 6 minutes and 55 seconds down. Renero is down the road from him. I haven't seen Casero from the Vitilo Seguros team, so he's gone back. Nardella's gone back. Hulo looks he's gone back since his puncture. So as far as this chap Baranovsky is concerned, he could be moving up into the top 10. So no wonder they're quite happy to ride at this stage, because it'd be nice for US Postal to get a man up there in the top 10.
Top 10, yes, but if they got away on their own, they could even get up higher than the top 10 maybe.
Well, I think for Baranovsky, you're quite right. You don't like the way people just ride for a place. You can't see out the window now. Somebody just parked a van outside with Coeur de Lion all over it.
Yeah. Pantani is coming up behind these, so it's good now he's coming onto these guys that they can just get onto Pantani for the descent, because Renero is going on his own. If Pantani can get across the Renero road, it'd be great for him on the descent, because even though the descent is a fast descent, there's still bits on it where you got to ride. Ulrich's group behind with 8 or 9 riders would ride much faster, roll much faster down the descent than Pantani on his own.
So the race is ripped to pieces, and Renero now takes over the lead with Pantani powering his way up to try and get up to him. We're looking here at the move which took Renero away. He came up on the inside. He nearly got Coyote into a spectator who got in the way, but he managed to get clear and come through. We're back down with Ulrich Ruben. He's drifted right to the back now. He's got to watch his adversaries up in front, and there's quite a number of them here. Jean-Cyril Robin, 181 for US Postal on the right-hand side. Up in front is Bogart making the pace with Baranovsky alongside him.
But at the same time, by doing this, whether it be good or bad, or whether it be hungry or not hungry, or whatever it is, by doing this, the other riders in this group here will feel, oh, is Ulrich okay? Oh, is Ulrich having problems? Let's ride. So I mean, by doing this, it could be also a tactic from Ulrich to encourage these riders to accelerate and ride a little faster, rather than looking after and kind of being aware that Ulrich is there. These guys are going to ride a little bit softer than what they would do if Ulrich was not there. So by letting them ride in the front, they'll ride a little bit faster.
Well, the complexity of the bicycle racing, I know many people who just switch on the telly and watch and go along and think, well, they're just a bunch of lads on bicycles riding along, gaily coloured decorated bicycles and gaily coloured decorated shirts advertising various products, but it's a very complex sport, and a lot of tactical manoeuvring going on. And also, Stephen, because you never ride, do you, at the same speed all the way through, you've got to preserve your strength and know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and every riding links goes through a bad patch. And it looks like Ulrich is beginning to move forward now.
Ulrich is accelerating.
And Ulrich has to come up. He went to back to look like he was suffering. I say Julich is going now, but Ulrich, can he come through? He has to now come up. This is the man that's the biggest danger. I'm sorry we're having problems with our pictures. I've said before, we haven't got the helicopter in the sky. Quick look at the back wheel of Pantani, who's there. Looks to me on his last but
21,
wrong sprocket.
Yeah, I'd say the gear for the top of this Galibier will be around about 39, 22, 23. Look at the water coming off the chain, Dave.
And it bounces from the front wheel up onto the bottom bracket, and again they had to put the special grease in the bottom bracket to stop the water water penetrating and making the ball bearings all great with grits going inside. There's sealed bearings in there now. Same thing with the pedals, so the grit and the rain doesn't get inside. Imagine the developments over the years. Go and look at some old bikes in museums and realise what they used to ride up these big mountains, because we've been over the top of the Cols de Galibier. First time in 1911. Imagine what the roads were like. Imagine what the bikes were like in those days as the giants of the road sold their way up. But now the speed of these modern riders, with Pantani clawing his way up here, trying to be the first man to get over the top today in the 1998 Tour de France, and to add his name to the great list of riders which go back to 1911, Georges there, 1912, Christophe, 1913, Buissa, 1940, Henri Pellissier, and in recent years, 1952, Fausto Covey, Bermontes, Gaul, Bermontes, Merckx, Zoetemelk, Okana, a roll call of people who've been over the top. And there I see in 1993, Tony Rominger, and he's up to Raniero. What a race!
Will Raniero be able to stay with Pantani? I think he will, Dave, because it's not too far from the finish, and he seems to be riding very strong today, Raniero.
You said these last 4 kilometres are the dangerous part, didn't you?
Well, they're almost over now, Dave. There's about a kilometre or and a half to go to the top. You see the road going up there, right up around you, about 2 kilometres to the top.
Jimenez has managed to come up too. He's looking quite good at the moment. The previous Spanish champion, and Pantani gritting his teeth here. Raniero's been out there an awful long time. Raniero went away on the climb up the Col de la Croix de Fer, and that would be, let me have a quick look at the sort of distance that he went away. It would have been round about probably about 50 kilometres. So as we get to the top of here to 146, Raniero's done nearly 100 kilometres, some 60 miles. He's been out with the leading 6 men, and he's been putting in a lot of work on the front himself. Now he's got Pantani for comfort, and he's gone in on his back wheel.
Well, it's in Pantani's interest as well to stay with Raniero, and given that the valley will be fairly lonely on his own. So I think it's a good tactic by Pantani to kind of dose his effort now to the top and stay with Raniero and Jimenez. At the same time, in saying that, with staying with them, he's always gone on his own. Spoke too soon, Dave.
Well, that's the trouble with when you're being commentators. You never know what's going to happen. And Pantani, of course, he's a damn good descender anyway, and he's going up there. He wants to make sure he gets that special prize for the first man over the top of this climb, which is dedicated to Henri DeFrance, the founder of the Tour.
Well, actually, what I was going to say was that by him staying with Raniero and Jimenez meant that, well, he's a chance of getting second or third in the finish, whereby by eliminating them now, it meant, well, he has a better chance of winning on his own. But here we have Julich now leading Ulrich.
So the move going back to that pack, as far as Ulrich is concerned, was a good one. And when Julich attacked, he drifted straight up. He had to stay with the danger man.
But looking at the style now of Julich, Dave, it reminds me very much of Greg LeMond. You remember Greg? He's going to pump the legs around like that and move his body the very same way Julich is there now.
I think, in fact, LeMond was his idol. I have to look back in my records. I think he saw some pictures of LeMond riding, or heard about him, or watched him race somewhere, and said yes, he wanted to become a racing cyclist like LeMond. Don't quote me on that, people out there. I'll have to look back to my record, but I think there was a little spark with LeMond that helped him go. 2 minutes and 4 seconds back then for Pantani. He started this morning in fourth spot. 3 minutes and 1 second back behind the yellow jersey. When they go down the other side, he's a good descender. He's also fallen off going down in the past as well, so keep your fingers crossed for Pantani, who's doing just what the Italian Tifosi wanted. He's setting about the yellow jersey on the climb of the Galibier. Brilliant. See the Italian flags go. They go, gosh, if he gets the stage on the yellow jersey tonight, there'll be a few sherbets being sunk back in Italy with his supporters clubs.
Just coming back in over the race ready now. Raniero is in very great difficulty in that he is just gotten out of the saddle and basically just stuck to the road. It's probably, I would say, the big man with the hammer has probably come out and hit him, because this is the hardest part now of the climb.
Well, we just saw the Red Dragon of Wales on the side of the road as well. So he's breathing fire and brimstone as Mr. Pantani on his way up here, as Bobby Julich just the front of this group. Where is the yellow jersey?
He's there, Dave, but Julich should attack. Why doesn't this man attack, Dave? Please, get him on attack, Dave.
Have a word with his team manager. Mr. Roche says it's about time that Julich had a go at it.
His teammates have attacked all day. They've done fabulous work. Why doesn't he attack, Dave?
So still then, going up toward the top of this climb, Pantani bouncing out the saddle. His typical style, this man who can suddenly punch minutes between himself and the rest of the people when the climb gets stiff. And in the final 5, 6, 7 kilometres of any climb, it's amazing the time he can take out. Because wasn't it last year he broke the record up the Alps, Stephen?
Pardon, Dave?
Alpe d'Huez last year. Didn't he break the record up the climb last year?
He did all right, Dave, but he really looked very impressive now. Look at all the people here on the other side of the road here, Dave. It's been raining since 8 o'clock this morning. It's been thundering down. All these crowds here on the side of the road, probably all soaking through to the skin, all coming out to support Tour de France.
And supporting this man Pantani, yet again a show that the specialist climbers can, when they get to high mountains, have their moments of glory, but it may carry him into the yellow jersey. But as they go to the top of this climb now, he will have 66 kilometres, 42 kilometres to go down to the finish, of which the final 9 kilometres are going back up again. It's straight down and straight back up.
This is Masseur now. You see him as Masseur giving his cape on top. This is obviously a pre-planned attack, Dave.
And they waited him to come over. He's going now to put his cape on. Let's hope.
Dave, this is I tell you, a waste of time, Dave, because he's taking the risk of falling off. He's trying to put his cape on. His cape is going to be blowing in the wind the way down now, slowing him up.
What would you do then?
I would have a bit of plastic, just stick it up in front.
Oh, up in front, right.
Put your arms in the slit, put the raincoat on backwards if you like.
Back to front, right.
Back to front, yeah. Which means slip your hands in straight away, down you go. He's losing too much time, and it's also dangerous.
There's
and also, your heart's pumping away there, Dave, as well. You're full of emotion. All you want to do is get down the set as fast as you can. You can do it.
Stopped.
There. Dave, please tell me, Dave.
Sit down, Stephen. Wait a minute.
Please, Dave, please tell me. Tell me I haven't seen that.
No, you haven't seen it. It's a figment of your imagination. Stephen Roche has collapsed in his seat alongside me, dear listener, because Stephen won the Tour of Italy, Tour de France, and it was, he's ridden one thing like Paris-Nice and big thing. He knows what to do, and suddenly Pantani, who's also a very skillful and very professional rider, stops on the side of the road to put his cape, and the wind is blowing up the front of it. What Stephen said was to put it on back to front, because it's your chest that gets cold, isn't it, Stephen? Oh, no.
Look at the wind here, Dave. Now, this is like...
It can't put, of course...
why be a climber? Why did God give this guy the gift of a climbing ability? Let him take 2 minutes out of Ulrich going up the hill and just stop off nice and casually, put my little raincoat on. A good job there wasn't a hot dog shop or a coffee shop there on the side of the road. He could have had a hot dog and a coffee at the same time. I just hope the man wins anyway, but it's just crazy, Dave.
Well, I got my clock running at the top of the climb. I don't think the official time clock's working at the moment, as Pantani goes down here a bit like a kite in the wind. And there, you see, now Ulrich started to put his jersey on. But
he's got no sleeves in it, Dave. It's handier to put on.
It's one of those vest things, isn't it, too? Yeah. Sorry about the picture problem we've got here, by the way. It is a disastrous day as far as television goes. I hope you're living with us on Eurosport, because, again, it's great live coverage you're watching on our Monday afternoon programme. 2 minutes and 6 seconds of Blanc. We didn't see him go over the top, and my watch is running out. Got 2:17 on the clock now at the moment. 2:19, 2:20. Remember, 3 minutes and 1 second separated Pantani from the yellow jersey. It's now come to 2:25 on my clock. I might have pressed it about 2 seconds too late, I think, but we'll get official time check over the race radio, I should think, because our standby clock is not. Oh, it is now 2:36, so my clock is right. Now they go over the top of the climb. They're still coming up. Remember, it's 3 minutes and 1 second separated Pantani from the yellow jersey at the start of this climb. 2:47 on my clock now as we go down the descent on the other side. So it may be just a little bit away from taking the yellow jersey, but he is a nutcase descender, and Ulrich is not the greatest. 2:47 was the time check we have, but he hadn't actually got to 2:50. 2:50 it is, so it sounds like an auction, doesn't it? Do I get 2:50? Do I get 3:01? No, I get 2:47. Well, the gap then, 3:01 this morning. He is now 11 seconds away from being the yellow jersey, and on the road, knowing the way Pantani goes down here, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't pull that 11 seconds back. We keep our fingers crossed for not only Pantani going down here, but the rest of the riders on the... Somebody's gone into the camper vans. One of the riders is down. Bobby Julich. What a disaster for Julich. It looks like he's gone into a camper van. He's lost control of his bicycle, and let's hope he's not hurt badly. In fact, he's stopping. He's putting his raincoat on, and he's
raincoat again, Dave.
He's gone.
No, crazy, Dave.
He was trying to put his raincoat on, and it looks like he lost control.
Here you are riding for the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. You're riding for this.
Here he is. Look, he's got his raincoat in his hands. He can't put his brakes on. It's nearly wrapped up in his front wheel. Stephen Roche is having a heart attack here.
This is a bike race. This is not pussyfooting around, Dave. This is just unbelievable, Dave. You're riding here for the yellow jersey. You're riding here for the gold prize at the biggest cycling event that exists. And the boys are putting on raincoats, Dave.
Any minute now, Stephen Roche had to have the kiss of life because he's about to have a attack. Not with what they're doing going around the bends, but what they're not doing. Well, we're going to take a short break now, so you can get your breath back. We'll get our breath back. Hold your fingers, cross your fingers, they all get down the bottom, safe and sound, and that Stephen Roche recovers from his heart attack.
Escape to the USA with Hertz from only $39 a day.
Mein Freund hat zwar kein ausgefallenes Hobby, aber dafür einen ausgefallenen Kombi.
Schön und gut. Der neue Toyota Corolla als Kombi. Die Entdeckung.
Und er ahnt nicht, wie gut wir den bald brauchen.
Mein Junge. Mein Stolz. Meine Altersvorsorge.
Rechnen Sie lieber mit uns. Sparkassen Privatvorsorge.
We going to the top, baby. Big time.
All that stands between Earth and an asteroid
Somebody down 911.
are 8 of the wildest, toughest, craziest men on the planet.
Kick a little asteroid butt. We have front row tickets to the end of the world.
Bruce Willis in a Jerry Bruckheimer production.
This is so much fun, it's freaky.
Directed by Michael Bay. Armageddon.
Back live to the Tour de France with Fissmann. Heating technology, have fun.
The gap between Pantani, who's leading on the drop down the mountainside of the Col de Galibier, is 2 minutes and 50 seconds back to Ulrich. We've seen an amazing sight of Bobby Julich careering into the front of one of the camper vans when he tried to brake and put his waterproof raincoat on at the same time. One by one, the riders are going down here, still with their raincoats blowing in the wind. This is LeBlanc at the moment. And Stephen, have you recovered from what you've seen so far, which is not what you see as tactically correct for these lads,
Well,
eh?
Dave, I have had time to reflect, and I must say, yes, it was a very incredible thing to do. But at the same time, the descent is some 30 kilometers long, and the riders will be soaking wet, so going down, they are going to be cold. As Laurent Fignon pointed out to me during the break, Stephen, it was okay for you because you liked the rain, you liked the cold, so it was okay. But these guys are continentals, these guys are French and they're everything else, but it's very cold. But he said, whereas I said, like, okay, Laurent, then they know they're going to have trouble going down the descent like this. Why don't they use the sleeveless jackets? We saw Ulrich has one in his hands. Like, put your arms straight through, because it's never really your arms that get cold, it's your body you want to keep cold. Keep dry, sorry. So, see, is Mayer getting some paper out of the car. That's even a good thing, because I think, like, when you're going down the descent like this, you're in the height, the high end of the warmth of the whole situation, so you don't really feel the cold that much.
Well, I'm interested to see an article that was printed. I'll probably be able to find out the club lads who did it, but I read an article in one of the club magazines about when they were out on the Tour de France and all the problems that went on with it. A very interesting article it was too, about how they got missed out in their van and were riding through the night and hadn't got any money and everything else, and they also got caught up in the rain. And what they did was, in the days of the Z team, they used to get out big plastic bags, and they found by cutting a hole in the bottom of the bag and cutting a bit off the corners, they made a racing cape virtually out of a big plastic bag, and just pulled it over the top, because you didn't need to put in the zips up the front or Velcro fastenings and do this thing. Just went straight over the top, and it kept kept yourself reasonably warm. Well, according to my watch, it's roughly around about 8:40. Yeah, Jalabert coming over now. They put the sign on 8:40. Really? Oh, and I put him in the top 3 today. That puts me at my place, doesn't it? He's had a very, very bad day, Jalabert. Now, what a great display. I know many supporters back in Great Britain are Jalabert fans, and will be listening to the programme today. We're disappointed for him, but he is still the world's #1. He can do enough in single-day classics and short tours to ensure that he will run out still number one, I expect, by the end of the year. But he's really taken an awful bashing today. And now they're dropping like stones. Keep your fingers crossed for all of them. Thank goodness that the...
Here's Jimenez, Dave, had to put his raincoat on, and it's open in the front.
So you get no advantage at all.
Yeah, it'll protect your shoulders a little bit, yes, but at the same time, it's blowing in the wind, it's slowing you down, it's and it's leaving his chest is exposed even still.
It's quite amazing how the individual temperatures work with different bodies, because I've certainly found this myself that coming from England, where it isn't all that warm, it isn't all that cold, we get sort of some extreme from time to time, that when you go to certain parts, like when we're down in the south of France, I'm walking around in just a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and to me it seems very hot, and I see other people walking around in long sleeve woolies and so on, and they're people from that part of the world, and what I think is a hot day, they think is a cold day. So certainly if Pantani would find today colder than you would, Stephen, because I think our bodies have an internal temperature. In Ireland, where it's a nice mellow climate, you get plenty of rain out there as well, but you get used to it, don't you? So we're getting some information coming now, as I think this is the yellow jersey dropping down.
Ulrich has caught LeBlanc on the descenter.
That's not a surprise, because LeBlanc isn't the world's greatest descender, is he? But it just shows how worried he's about Pantani. Bogart here chasing after him too, so he's lost the track of Ulrich. Ulrich knows that he's got Bobby Julich out the back since he crashed as well, so he knows that he will have gone off there. So at the moment, Ulrich's doing a tremendous job. He's trying to rip some pieces out of the people again, isn't he? Or is he scared of Pantani?
Just listening at Julich is coming down behind Luc Leblanc like a ton of bricks, they say. Apparently, Julich was a skier. The race radio is saying he used to be a skier, and he's won some competitions when he was skiing.
Well, again, he was used to descending, but as far as he's concerned now, he's got to do quite a lot of work to catch up with the yellow jersey, who's suddenly realised that he can punch a hole in the time. He's 1 minute and 11 seconds the difference was this morning between Julich and Ulrich. And now Pantani looks like he's got company.
He's closing his coat up now. For the last 10 kilometers, so Dave, Jimenez has been trying to close his jerseys. Think of the time wasted, Dave. Like in this day and age, look at the wind blowing in Pantani's raincoat there now. That's even slowing him down. Like what he really should have there is a sleeveless raincoat. Ulrich's here on his own, Dave. Yeah. What's happened here now?
I think Ulrich put on that sleeveless raincoat, didn't he, on the way down?
Yeah, he did, yeah. But how come Ulrich is on his own, Dave?
Well, Bogart's behind him. He hasn't. Bogart's been dropped on the way down. We know Julich's been dropped on the way down. Now the US Postal boys were close. US Postal were close to round about it, weren't they? But I haven't seen what's happened to them.
Yeah.
Well, I've looked back in my little notes on Bobby Julich. I can't find the bit about being a skier. I suppose that they must have got it from somewhere. But no, nothing I can find about it so far. That the lad who comes out from the Colorado turns right. Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Do they get snow up in Colorado? I suppose they do. But because one thing, when you're out in that part of the world, you can travel anywhere to get yourself into the cold weather or the hot weather. So Pantani at the bottom. It's not much flat down here, though, is it? Before they start to sweep up the other side.
No, the descent kind of levels off after a while, and it's less descending, but it's not actually flat. Then it starts going up again straight away practically for the last 9.5 kilometers, then up to Les Deux Alpes, going from some 1,000 meters up to 1,644 meters.
And Jimenez joining in with the chase there. Ulrich way clear of his teammates now. He's done a marvellous job today. We've got to take our hats off to him, the way he stayed with all the attacks on the way up. They were going left, right and centre, and now on the descent, not the world's greatest descender, but he's just going down here.
Is that Pipoli again, Dave?
Pardon?
Is that Pipoli again with
of the cycle
Pantani's best friend who helped Ulrich the other day? So it'll be interesting to see now up to the on the flat here now, and then up to the Bogart's going to ride now.
Yeah, Pierre Poli behind hasn't bothered to put on anything to keep himself nice and warm, but Pantani now has lost. Jimenez has gone past him. Well, Jimenez is a much bigger rider and probably a lot more powerful on the descent, but Pantani has... No, it isn't. It's from the Cofidis squad. Hang on. Well, that's quite a surprise then, because I thought that he got dropped out and hadn't got any strength left in his legs then, Raniero, but he's gone back to Pantani. Pantani went past him, but Raniero has now either recovered or he's just acting like a nutcase to go down there. And Raniero, we can often forget him either, because he started out this morning 14th overall, 6 minutes 16 seconds down. Jalabal's been blasted out the back. Hulo's gone. Hamburger's gone. A lot of riders. Nardella's gone. He could be moving right up into the top half dozen as well.
Pilsner aus dem Herzen der Natur.
Calme protects you with MSK. Calme intelligent stunts that avoid your injuries. Calme.
This was painted in the 18th century by one of
NEC's Video on Demand. One of many, many ways NEC multimedia solutions are enriching your life.
Tour de France. Von Dublin nach Paris. Radsport informiert Sie kompetent und aktuell. Über Fahrer, Fakten und Hintergründe. Schnell und umfassend. Radsport. Jeden Dienstag im Handel.
Back live to the Tour de France with Astra, the satellite system.
On the descent of the Galibier, you can see the riders here trying to collect themselves together and close up before we start the final climb of the day. Ulrich has been descending remarkably well. He's actually cut back the deficit. He's chopped some 50 seconds out of the deficit at the top of the climb. And he's now just over a couple of minutes behind, maybe 2 minutes and 2 seconds behind Pantani, who has now lost first place on the road to Raniero, who's gone past him. And as you can see, in very nasty conditions, all the spray flying up from the wheels into the rider's eyes. But fortunately, the road fairly wide and not too many desperately narrow hairpin bends to cause them trouble on the way down. And I said that the raincoat's causing trouble, and I found out now where it was and how you cut a plastic Z bag and make it into a Mac, and it was in the article published by the riders who went out, the Saint-Budeau West Country and Velo Club Lantern Rouge. Des Stevens, John Bowring, Dave and Jamie Treliving and Mike McGarry went off to watch the Tour de France way back in 1996, but it's a great story, and with the events they went on, eventually the chicken wings, which they'd taken with them, finally went off after about 10 days of cooking in the back of a van. It's a tremendous story how they punctured and everything else that went on, but at least, in fact, the van broke down just before the Brittany Ferries, and they had to sort of drive it along in one gear and then push it onto the Brittany Ferries. But if you ever come out to the Tour de France, it is a great experience to come out and watch it, not only just to see the riders go by, but to be involved with the activity. The towns you go along are en fête. You meet up with other people out there camping to watch the tour go by. An enormous camaraderie amongst the spectators. A great disappointment today. They've had such a miserable day on the side of the road to watch what was going to be a real critical stage in the Tour de France. It's not over yet by any means. We've still got the final climb up to Les Deux Alps. Not, Stephen, the climb as tough as the one up to the Alps, but nevertheless, after these cold, wet, miserable days racing they've had today, it must be the sort of final shock to the system, and someone like Pantani would revel in that, but he's got to stay, I suppose, in the front until he gets to the bottom. Is that still possible?
Yes, but I think that the final climb up to Les Deux Alpes would suit the likes of Ulrich, because it's not that steep. It's a very big gear hill. Some of the riders reckon they might even be able to go over in the big ring, say 53, 19, 53, 20, 21. But so I don't know whether Pantani will be able to increase his advantage on Ulrich, or whether maybe Ulrich might even be able to get back to Pantani, because the group seems to be working well here together. We saw them all having a little chat there now and again, and we saw Bogart chatting to to Julich. And we saw Julich going to having a word then with another guy. So I reckon now what they're going to do is they'll ride it together, and then we'll see what happens then on the bottom. But I would have preferred to see Julich attack him, because so far he hasn't attacked. He's ridden on the front, he's ridden on Ulrich's wheel, but hasn't actually attacked. So it's a bit disappointing really, because all of his teammates have attacked. His teammates have done a fabulous job to prepare the terrain for Bobby to actually launch himself on his own, and he hasn't even tried. He's basically just gonna sat there. So it's a bit disappointing for, or maybe I think I'm just disappointed that he hasn't attacked.
And there again, perhaps, of course, tomorrow we don't have an uphill finish. We got a flat run down. I think what's shown, the fact after the crash that he's been able to come down, he was a minute down after the crash to catch up with the little group, shows he can descend very well indeed. So if he'd gone over the top that last time with a 15-second lead and hadn't fallen off, I mean, we're sort of postulating what could have happened. It shows he's got the ability to descend faster than Ulrich, and he must take that chance sometime. 25 kilometres to go for the leader down the road. Renaro setting a fast pace just ahead of Pantani, and the Ulrich group are about a couple of minutes behind.
There'll be some incredible gaps in the GC sheet tonight. Now, not on the front, but from 10th place down. There's some riders out there at the moment that are already 25-30 minutes back. So I haven't yet made out what the delay will be or what the cut-off time will be yet. But I think that with the speed of this stage today now, I'd say it will be very few. I'd say there'll be a couple out there lucky to, if they get home within the time limit.
Well, we lost a load of riders way up in the Pyrenees. We lost 17 in one day. It was almost a record number that got dropped out. And whoops, look at them going around these bends here, right on the very limit. Because the trouble is too, Steve, when you go out there and start to swing across, you get yourself onto those white lines in the centre. They're very slippy indeed, aren't they?
They are, and they're normally a little bit of a lump on them as well, so it's very difficult to actually judge how they're going to go. But that's all part of anticipation, to anticipate your line, to get the best out of the whole thing, so that you're actually going around the corner with doing as little braking as possible. Braking at the right time, letting it go, getting into the corner, getting around it, and putting the power on as fast as you can.
One man that hasn't done anything except stay with this group, this chap Pierre Poli, he's been hidden all the time, hasn't he? Just moving on the wheels. There he is in the Psycho colours, the red and white. And he's doing quite a decent ride overall, but he's never attacked, he's never done anything. He's just been sitting there, but he's managed to survive so far.
Well, I think the other day when we rode in the Pyrenees with Ulrich, Pantani had a few words with him, because they were their training partners, they're very good friends. And as Pantani says to him, like, why are you riding? Like, you've nothing to gain on GC. Why are you riding? You know, a few seconds in hand for me could be worth a lot. Could worth a yellow jersey at the end of the Tour de France in Paris. So why ride for no reason at all?
Well, about La Grave, 23.5 kilometres the riders are at now, and you can see this is about the bottom of the climb, and then we start to go up. We're in the place now, the Isère. We've come through the Haute Alps. We start this morning in Grenoble with the rain, which has never really let up, and it's now 2 minutes and 11 seconds between this leading group and the Ulrich group. So Pantani still has a chance, because he started this morning at 3 minutes and 1 second down on Ulrich to take the yellow jersey. And if he does that on the final climb up today, 2:11 it is between Pantani and Ulrich. This is the flattish bit, so they've got to turn off and climb up the bit. We've had the yellow jersey changed several times so far. If you haven't been watching Eurosport or read it in newspapers, let me take you through the yellow jersey we've had since we started in Dublin on the 12th of July. We had the prologue time trial on the 11th on the Saturday, the short one blast round the Dublin town centre, and Chris Boardman took that one. He kept the jersey for the next day as well, so 2 days in yellow for Chris Boardman. And then it changed to Zabel, who got it in the stage after the sprint into Cork. He only had it for 1 day. Hamburger took it off him, and then he only had it for 1 day, and O'Grady took it for 3 days, and then straight after O'Grady had 3 days in yellow, Ulrich took it for just 1 day, and then on the stage into Montbin, when Duran got the stage, Debian was in the break, so he took the yellow jersey that day to Debian. Ulrich got it back the next day, and he's kept it ever since then. So we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in fact 7 changes of the yellow jersey. Every time it changes, we calculate that as one change in the yellow jersey. 7 times it's changed, and we're on the way, if it changes today, to an 8th change of ownership of the yellow jersey. And we're moving on to sort of record, because I think the record in the recent years with the yellow jersey moving from one rider to another is something like 9 times. And of course, if Ulrich lose it to Pantani today, he's got a strike to get it back again, and it's going to be again one of the most interesting Tour de France we've had for a long time, because we've seen so often in the past the yellow jersey only moving a few times during the race, and the rest of the riders battling out for the lower places. We have had many years ago France in 1928 and in 1924 Botticelli take the yellow jersey right the way through from the start to finish. Mays did the same thing in 1935, but normally speaking it only changes about 4 or 5 times. The last record time of 9 changes were in 1956 and 1958. Can the jersey go on the shoulder? Pantani, who's playing Tail and Charlie on his screens at the moment.
Step into the future.
The Astra Satellite System presents more than 40 digital free-to-air TV channels. All the latest international news, cartoons, great movies, documentaries, music, and top sporting action. Children, take control and enter the digital future. It's all over Europe and it's all on Astra. Astra, Europe's leading satellite system.
Die Fitmacher aus deutschen Landen. Iss es. Schmeck es. Spür es. Iss es, schmeck es, spür es.
Meine Freundin meint immer, ich wäre ganz schön bequem. Dabei bin ich eigentlich stinkfaul.
Bequemer geht's nicht. Der neue Toyota Corolla als Liftback. Die Entdeckung.
Knöpfchen muss man haben. Hm?
Back live to the Tour de France with Licha Pilsner.
Riders about to go into the tunnel, so we'll now lose the pictures. We've gone back to pick up Luc Leblanc with this little group of riders. The yellow jersey now at just over 2 minutes and around about 11 seconds down on the breakaway group down the road, with Pantani setting a hot pace, and we won't be long before we sweep up the climb in towards the finish. You see the group again coming together, a lot more riders off the top of that climb moving through, and I wonder if any of the telecom. You see the state of the rain that's coming down here. It's been like it on and off all day. I suppose the only way to practice doing it is to take your bicycle with its turbo trainer, stick it in the bath and turn the shower on and spray it all over yourself, and do that for like about how long are we going now? We're looking at Ulrich there on your screen. Hey, Stephen, you're pulling the Steve Rose has got up to talk to some of his friends. He's started to pull the whole of the control cabinet off the top of our table here. Right, sit down, young man, and behave. I know you're getting excited, and the racing's jolly good, and you're enjoying it, but you nearly pulled the whole thing to pieces then. And we're
just ordering you some hot wine, David.
Oh, is that what? You're a jolly good...
I'm freezing, I am.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. I will join you in that then, because I've been sitting here since we started this morning at just after 11 o'clock. So we're coming up now to 6 hours in the saddle, 6 hours sitting on this plastic seat, which when we came this morning, all the rain had come through into the commentary point. It had washed all over our equipment. We had to change the control. 2:33 inside the 25 kilometers now. 2 minutes and 33 seconds is the gap. We had to change over the controls and had to wipe the water off the plastic seat. And sitting in here now, the rain is still coming down. Undoubtedly, we've had a miserable day today, but we can't be critical of the weather, because we had 3 gorgeous days when we were down in Aix-la-Provence when the sun has been shining, and it's been gorgeous days. But the contrast, though, Stephen, as a rider, you're riding in 37, 40 degrees of heat for 3 days. Suddenly, wham, you get hit with this shower. Fortunately, it's reasonably warm, but still, it must be a terrible shock to the system.
It is, Dave. The whole system goes haywire because it gets used to the warm. weather and the heat, the sun burning down the legs, and the muscles really enjoy it, and you really function to its utmost under the heat. And all of a sudden, tomorrow, the next day, you get the cold weather. Look at Ulrich's legs here. You can see them trembling a little bit. That's with the cold as well. Even though this morning, with the weather forecast being bad and the rain was starting to come down, they would have used different kinds of embrocation on the legs, but by this time of the race now, this time of the day, most of the embrocation have been washed off the bike, washed off the legs. Just see Ulrich there on the screen when the picture goes back again. When we see him, and there, his actual jacket there, his cape is a sleeveless cape, and you put your arms in and through it much easier than you do with a full cape. So I think that the other riders there, the Fontanis and the Julich and everybody else, riding a race at the level they're riding at, they should be thinking about these things. And okay, it's a little bit more comfortable getting your arms in and everything else, but it nearly cost Ulrich his race. If he'd hit that Kappa car harder, his race was over.
And also these black arm warmers he's got, they've got some special neoprene ones now, haven't they? So you can roll them down. I saw many riders starting with them round about their wrists, like a great big black band round their wrist. Now they've rolled them up again. They also provide some warmth and shelter from the rain, don't they?
They do, yes, and like the thing is, your arms are not the ones where you really feel the cold the most, or it's not the most dangerous part. The most dangerous part is your chest. So the important thing is to cover up your shoulders and your chest if you can. And that's why I was saying, what I always did was put my raincoat on backwards. Yeah. Wouldn't even bother closing it behind, it didn't matter. The important thing was that my arms, my shoulders and my chest were protected. I meant there was no chance of falling off, because in 2 seconds you're baff straight into it.
And I'd rather think that now 2:47 is a gap, it's growing all the time, that Marcy in this lot here, when I saw him early on, he's got a sort of scaled down racing cape. In fact, Pantani's taken his race cape off now, but earlier on saw Marcy the same thing. He got a very short sleeved race cape on when he was riding along. I think he might have taken it off now, but he did the same thing. Yes, he has, because his numbers are on his jersey, but he also had a very similar short sleeve one and it seemed to fit his body too. There wasn't all the flopping around with the white ones that they wear with the official I suppose that yellow one must be part of the official gear, though. You're not allowed to wear.
Yes, it is. Yeah, no, because they have the Telecom badge on it as well. So it's obviously the same system as the yellow jersey, whereby they print on the iron on a kind of a film of the Telecom sticker, or whatever the particular classification leader's sponsor is. But you see the bottles here being given up to the riders. You can be sure that in some of them bottles there'll be very hot tea with lemon in it as well, because like after coming down to the descent there will be cold. Even though they had the raincoats on, they'll be cold. But here's the car coming up now, giving the Kelme giving Scarton his bottle. So more than likely in those bottles will be warm tea with some honey in it, maybe, or some lemon in it, maybe, just to kind of give it a bit of taste and to heat them up a little bit.
What a complete contrast to the cold water they've been drinking in previous days when he's been baking out sunshine on these riders. And I remember once Stephen riding in that Tour van Tosselt, in my first multi-stage race, when an Irishman named Murphy from Dublin was asked to look after the independent riders, who had just Tours, my club, and we went over these mountains. Do you call them Dennissaget Mountains or Dennissaget Mountains? Down in South Ireland somewhere, down towards down the Kerry-way. Yeah, went over the top of that one, and I got distance, as they say, in the cold weather. It was raining and miserable. And he's
been dropped, Dave.
And I was dropped. Lashade. I wasn't the last, I was just lashing. And he said, "Drink, David, drink." And I said, "Yes." And he handed me up this bottle full of hot liquid, you said. I whacked a lot down, and it was hot milk and Irish whiskey.
Wow.
It nearly blew my brain. God, I don't remember the next sort of hour and a half. I said, "There's an alcoholic haze," but that was powerful stuff. That was. Yeah, we're not allowed to drink alcohol, but you'll get tested at the end of it, and it's a forbidden substance, gentlemen. Good job they don't test the press when they're writing the stores at the end of the day. No, they keep off the show until they finish. Well, Ulrich here is
we just saw it was a Farazin there gone through there with the...
he was earlier with the group.
With the raincoat, with the arms, the sleeves cut out of it.
Yeah.
And he hasn't even got arm warmers on his arms to keep his arm warm, so...
Tough man, you see, these Belgians.
Man, yeah. Well, when my wife goes to Mallorca or to my training camps, and she can tell the nationality of the people on the beach by the clothes they wear. If you see someone out there like with an overcoat on, you say, "Oh, he's from Palma," you know. Or you're seeing someone down with a t-shirt and kind of a shirt down, you say, "Oh, he's probably French or Belgium, someone from Central Europe, you know." But you see someone out there with a kind of a vest or topless or no top on at all. So they must be Irish or English.
Enjoying the sunshine.
Because even 20 degrees is warm for ourselves now at the moment.
You're telling me it is, yeah. We're not used to such hot weather. Well then, the group here you see on your screen, the last time check, we had 2 minutes 45 seconds back to Ulrich, who's now chasing very hard indeed with a good group of riders round about him. They seem a bit splintered here though, not cohesive in their action to try and ride away. So with a few good riders round about Ulrich, and they're all taking in turns to relay, they might well start to pull that gap back.
Well, if the front riders do collaborate, because we have in there, like, we have a number of climbers. We have Massey, who's the climbers jersey. We have Scarty, who's a climber. We have a Pontani climber. So, like, there's enough climbers in there to be able to, that they should be able to ride together. As Massey seems to have attacked here, Dave, but I don't know why he would have attacked, because he seemed to be, didn't seem to be too strong going over to Galibier. So I wonder, is he trying to get away, trying to get a bit of sliding room before getting onto the Col de Deux Alpes?
Well, he's on the front at the moment, being tracked down by the green pants of the Calme team. The two Calme riders are Serrano and Escartin. Escartin is the team leader there. If you see the camera go up there, he's got 171 on his jersey, whilst Serrano is 178. So you can pick those out for yourself from the back view. And the Renaro's still in there. He's been there for over 100 kilometres now, over 60 miles. The lad in the Cofidis colours, sitting at the back. He's done so much work at the front. Pantani there with number 21 on his back, the Mercatone Uno Bianchi colours, and Massey then in the polka dot jersey, driving hard the front. Very strong, punchy rider, Massey. He's a bit more robustly built than the rest of the thin climbers around about him, but he does want to stay close to the front to get more points to Kingdom out his competition. What a surprise if he takes that one through to Paris.
Of course, Dave, but he had a fabulous ride the other day. If you remember, he held off Pontani on the Pyrenees stage. He won the stage by doing a fabulous ride, staying away for the 160 kilometres, I think it was, Dave, staying away for, and then holding off Pontani, with Pontani not even gaining 1 second on him on the final descent into wherever it was the other day, Dave.
Right, there was the other day, yes.
The other day, yeah. On the Pyrenees it was. Day before the marathon finish, 2 days before the rest.
3:14, he's got it. Now, race leader on the road, Marco Pantani of Italy, and Bianchi and Mercatone is now the virtual maillot jaune on the road. We could have yet another changeover. They've clashed it up on the screen, what I've just told you, and they've still got the last climb of the day to do. 9 kilometres up to the finish, where the crowd now suddenly got excited. It's come over the PA to them, and you can see them all turning and chatting to each other. Hey, Pantani, and there's going to be a wave of sound when he comes up the climb, with all the supporters coming over here from Italy to see the man. He won the Tour of Italy this year, did Pantani, with a fine, not only climbing demonstration in the final week of the race, but in the end he also did it when he went into time trial and showed his strength.
Still, Dave, he'd have to take at least 2.5 minutes out of him, I think.
Yes, for the time trial.
Well, if he takes a minute and a half out of him today, or even another minute out of him today. Puncture, Dave. Puncture for Ulrich.
Oh, what a... No, he hasn't got a teammate round about him.
Puncture.
He's got the team car there. Yes.
Front wheel, Dave.
So, a quick change here, but he's got no teammates to drop back for him at all. What a disappointment for the yellow jersey. He's got a chase on his own now. There's a lot of team cars there. He can get in the draft of those.
Very slow change, Dave.
Awfully slow. Awfully slow change. He must have lost a good 30-35 seconds there.
No, but 15 seconds there. It
sure?
feels long, yeah.
Does it?
Feels long now, but 15 seconds. But I say that the riders in the front, they won't attack. They may ease up because of the goodwill between them all, but at the same time they may just keep riding and let Ulrich get back on by himself.
Well,
we're just saying that the Pantani, if taking that Ulrich gets back on here, because what happens as well here, the cars will all come past. So you have 5 teams there in the front. The 5 team cars will come past, and Ulrich should be able to use them to get back onto the group.
But when you think that Marco Pantani on stage 5, when we went from Chateau to Châteauroux, Marco Pantani was down in 80, or he finished at the 87th overall that day on the stage, and Pantani's been way off the pace in the early part of the race. He's now beginning to use his skills to climb back up the general classification. He was so far down, I think he was a thick end of 9 minutes down at one time. Pantani is doing what he knows best of all, that's climb, and he's got one big mountain left to go, as he's now way ahead of Ulrich on the virtual classification on the road.
Sport bringt sie ganz nah ran. Starke Reportagen, faszinierende Bilder, packende Hintergrundberichte Nur live sind Sie näher dran. Testen Sie Sports 3 Monate lang inklusiv digitaler Stoppuhr für nur 10 Mark. Rufen Sie jetzt an 080 580 50 30 und Sports kommt auch zu Ihnen.
What do you see? What you see is a car that offers the ultimate in drivability and dependability. What you see is a car that not only looks better, but has a body armor that lasts. What you see is a car whose every detail is checked to ensure it's as reliable as it is ingenious. And what you see is a car that is as economically beautiful as it is beautiful to behold. What you see is a Hyundai, so prepare to want one.
Setting about this race and he has attacked again and again on the foothills of this final climb of the day. If we look back to stage 7 after the time trial there, Pantani was 43rd overall, 5 minutes and 4 seconds down on Ulrich. There's now 8 kilometers to go to the top of the climb. Unfortunately then Ulrich has had that puncture, he's got to chase to get back on his own, and the crowds along the route here now are going to witness a spectacle of Pantani climbing up here as a virtual Mayo show, and provided he doesn't blow a gasket on the way up, he could be into yellow by the end of the stage today, but he's got to thump a great distance of time between himself and Ulrich to have any chance when we come to the time trial stage later in the race, when Ulrich will see, you see on that time trial stage in that we had in the early part of the race, he was some nearly 4 minutes faster than Pantani. So really Pantani at the moment knows he's got to really power up this climb and get well ahead of Ulrich, who's now fighting his way back, and he's got to do it on his own because the telecom team have been distanced. He's got nobody around about to support him. So Pantani now, keep your fingers crossed that he doesn't puncture as well, because these things can happen to riders, but it's a gradual climb up here, not as nasty as the Alps d'Huez. The first time we've used this climb, nobody's been up here on the Tour de France before, so we have a new name on the list of winners on this stage. As now we can watch Ulrich coming through the traffic. At least he's got the shelter of the vehicles to go through, but there again they've got to be looking in their rear view mirrors, which is not an easy thing to do with all the back of the car covered in muck and rubble, to see that as Ulrich's working his way through the cars to get back to that chase group, Pantani has a nice clear run ahead of him on the climb up to the finish. Here we are, look, he's working his way through the... It's always a problem though, I mean, it's bad enough in dry conditions, but coming through here, all the spray coming off from the motor cars, it must be very difficult for a rider.
It is, Dave, but at the same time you're getting a bit of shelter. So I mean, say, it's still a bad thing altogether, you know, but it's also having an in front of you, it gives you something to go for as well. But now the effort now that Ulrich has just been making to get on here, 4 minutes and 6 seconds there, but the effort Ulrich is making to get back on here, it might... Bjorn Ries is coming up the back, we say, here.
Start of climb, it's 4 minutes and 6 seconds back to Ulrich from Pantani, and that puts Pantani nearly 1 minute clear of Ulrich on the overall classification if it stays that way to the finish. You were saying earlier on that, at least I was saying that the Italians, and that looks like Julich starting to go too. So Bobby Julich now, who has waited a bit for his moment to strike. Remember, he started also 1 minute and 11 seconds down on Genoble this morning. So that puts him and Pantani this morning just about less than 2 minutes separating Julich and Pantani. So if Julich now has got to pull back some time, he may still only be second, but if Julich can really power up, he hasn't done anything so far except ride with the rest. Well, he hasn't done anything, he's survived up there, but now is his time. Surely Julich has to show today to punch a hole into Ulrich and climb up after Pantani.
He has to, because Bobby Julich is a good time trialist, so for me to say Pontani cannot let him get too close either. But as Pontani relaunches the bike here again, it's incredible ride by Pontani here. Just going back to this, there's 4 riders who have won the double the Giro Tour in the same year. I know it's a bit early yet to be talking about that, but there's Kopi, Anquetil, Merckx, Hino.
Yes, and
you say it, Dave. You say
go on, Stephen Roche. Hey! So, is he going to join that select band of riders that's won the Giro and the Tour de France in the same year?
Reese, come back, Dave. Reese is on his way back here.
So Reese has just gone and he's struggled. He's blown again, hasn't he? Through the murk, there was another Cofidis rider. I couldn't see who the heck it was. I don't know what it's like back at home on your screen, but we're peering down the murky end of a tunnel here to watch him go through.
It's Bolts, Dave. Ulrich isn't able to say. He's taken off his coat now. Like, Ulrich should have done this on the flat, Dave. It's a lack of experience again, once again on Ulrich's side. I know maybe people might think at home I must have been really perfect, or my generation must have been perfect.
Stephen,
but like taking off a raincoat on the hill, Dave.
Right.
I mean to say
it, Stephen, because young lads listening here, we could have some lads out there watching the programme, and they learn from what you're saying, and I know that well, because this is sort of thing that will go down and through into people's mind and say, yes, like young Bradley Wiggins, who's did that ride. I don't know what happened last night in the Pursuit Championship, but he's a young junior lad coming through, won the Junior World Pursuit. If he's watching now, for instance, that's something that'll go into his head, and other riders who may make it one day. Keep going, Stephen.
Yeah.
Go on, give me.
Well,
go on, you keep going.
No, it's like normally there was a flat road there before he came onto the hill. He knows where the hill is. He has his director sportif telling him what he's going in his ear. He had his speedometer on, he has his mileometer on. He knows what he's doing.
So now look
4
at
minutes
that.
and 4 seconds back to Julich, and 4:41. So there's 37 seconds between Julich and Ulrich.
And now Reese has gone to...
No, it's Bolts, Dave.
Bolts, that's right. Bolts has got back to him, yes, but it's certainly... They're making heavy weather of it, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah, definitely are, yeah.
Well, nice to see then that
but at the same time, Julich in front has Renero, Dave, in front, so he will have somebody in front that have to draw him out as well.
So that's Van der Voer of the Lotto team, I think, at the back there. Just going, and Pantani's going even faster. Little devil.
Little devil.
Yeah. So all the Italian supporters out here, a lot of them live locally, they've got shops locally, business locally, they've got on holiday out here, and so we're going to see a tremendous lot of supporters fill around. I know they painted the road in Italian colours when I had a look at it last night.
We know.
They're all over the place, aren't they, these Cofidis riders, eh? He's taken his hat off now, sensibly, I think, on the climb, because he's not going to need that crash at up the top now. There's no going down at all, just gradually all the way up to the final climb. It flattens a bit in towards the last half kilometre, but nevertheless it's going to go up. There's no rest spot. It's not fierce though. It's a good rolling climb. I know you thought Ulrich might have been able to roll up here, but I think he's a bit stopped at the moment. 5
kilometres to the finish for Pontani, Dave.
So the latest time check with 5Ks to go. We'll be coming in just a moment then, and the time he's struggling.
Reese is coming back on now, so Ulrich will have 2 teammates, Dave, with Bolts and Reese, but he doesn't seem to be in too good, Dave. Ulrich seems to be having a bad day.
We have not seen this lad struggle like this for a long time. As now Reese comes up to him, he did a great ride in the Tour de France 2 years ago and he finished second. He didn't miss a beat then. Last year in the Tour de France, he also didn't miss a beat then. I've been wondering all the time, Stephen, that he lost so much weight in such a short space of time as to whether that might make him a bit tired as the Tour went on. But now Pantani then out on the front, going away all the time. When we came into the Tour de France this year, right about, go on, Stephen, you
just was listening in to Pepe Martinelli, Pontani's director sportif, speaking on French television there, being interviewed live. He said, what's Marcos Pontani's strategy for today? And he said, well, starting off today so as to go for the stage, but now the situation is that now he's giving everything for everything. The winning of the yellow jersey of Tour de France is here on offer. We're so near Paris now. Give it everything today.
Well, not only are we seeing Pantani setting about the yellow jersey, we've also got Julich now, who had the misfortune on the way down off the top of the Galibier to collide with a stationary vehicle. He only sort of drifted into when he was trying to put his race cape on and brake at the same time, but he didn't do himself any harm, fortunately. He's got a very special bike, by the way, provided by Maurizio Fondres for the Tour de France this year. It's a brand new bicycle that it's only especially done for this one. He's quite a big fellow, 6 foot tall, 160 pound Bobby Julich, so He's one of these tall, lanky climbers. He's chasing after the little diddy fellow Pantani down the road, but what he's also doing is his good time trials is putting more time between himself and Ulrich, who could find himself dropping down the general classification because Julik this morning 1 minute 11 seconds away from the yellow jersey, and the way he's going up now, he might well overtake Ulrich on general classification. 4 kilometers to go for Pantani.
Yeah, the fact that Bjorn Ries has come back and Udo Bolt has come back to Ulrich is not automatically a good sign, because it means that his teammates, after getting dropped, have come back. So Ulrich is obviously on a bad day. He's going a lot slower than he was earlier on.
So Pantani then inside the final 4 kilometers now, and the lead 5 minutes and 17 seconds. Pantani gritting his teeth here. He's done a wonderful ride today. Took off going over the top of the Galibier. Down the other side, he pulled back 1 or 2 riders up in front of him. Then he dealt the lethal blow as we started up the climb of Les Deux Alps. First time we've been up this particular climb to finish the tour. It was 9-kilometer climb in all. And after Julik had that crash on the way down off the Galibier, he's also chose his moment to try and distance himself from the yellow jersey, who last time we saw was really struggling. The gap over 5 minutes then back from Pantani to the yellow jersey. He started this morning 3 minutes and 1 second down on Ulrich, so Pantani now is riding into the yellow jersey, but Ulrich here started out this morning looking back at Pantani's time. He started out just some less than 2 minutes adrift of Pantani. I somehow don't think that Ulrich can close that gap down. He might have to finish off with second place yet again. Determination all over the face of the Dutch champion. Bogart here is going up to Julik, so these two could well work together. But Pantani, the speed he's going at, it's going to be difficult for them to catch, or them to close that gap down.
It is there, but at the same time, Pantani will have a certain advantage over his rivals tomorrow if he gets, and hopefully will get this yellow jersey. But tomorrow there's 5 climbs tomorrow, 1 hour category, 2 first category, and I think it's 2 or 3 second category climbs. I don't think Pantani has a fabulous team though for defending. That's my worry about Pantani now today.
Well, he knows how to climb, and when he goes up there on his own, he's okay. He needs to be just in contention, as you were saying early on, Stephen. He always has a habit to ride at the back of the pack and go when the time is exactly right. So let's hope tomorrow he can do just that, stay where he has to be, and what a great happening it'll be if he gets yellow at the end. So there, it's with 5 kilometers to go then for Bobby Julik, well down below Pantani at the moment.
One thing sure, Dave, tomorrow we will live another fabulous stage again, because the likes of Ulrich and Bogart and Julich, they all know that Pantani's team is going to be weak, and they're going to set out tomorrow morning with the intention of isolating Pantani from the first climb off and the first climb on, because tomorrow is probably the last stage, the last chance they have of getting back the yellow jersey from Pantani if they want it. So people might think that we were against Ulrich from his jersey, but we want his spectacle, we want his kind of panache, we want his attacking, whereas tomorrow we'll be saying the very same thing about Pantani. Although we like Pantani, we'll be saying, well, will Ulrich jump away, will he attack, will Bogart try and get away? They know that Pantani's team is going to be very weak tomorrow. They're going to try and isolate him right from the start of the climbs tomorrow morning, and Pantani will have to try and contain everything and try and use his own strength to maybe either close down the gap on the Madeleine, the final climb, or else why not even try and leave his rivals on the Madeleine and try and finish and win a stage in yellow tomorrow night.
Well, Bobby Julik started out this morning 1 minute 11 seconds down on Ulrich in yellow. He now, in fact, has gone ahead of Ulrich on the general classification, as at right now. But Pantani is going to take the yellow jersey. So Bobby Julik, for all the work he's putting in, he's likely still to be second overall in classification. But at least he's pulling himself away and over the top of Ulrich, because young Jan Ulrich is an extremely good time trial. He's a lot better than Pantani. But Bobby Julik today has got to move up and put some space between himself and Jan Ulrich. So this race can go on and go on and go on to the time trial, which is the not the penultimate day this year. We've got a road stage, haven't we? But it's the last but one stage on the race, and so it really is setting itself up. We've got a long way to go yet. And
Ulrich isn't there to hold the wheels.
He isn't. Well, as he rides up now, we discussed in the past, Stephen, that he had to lose a lot of weight early on this year. He lost a lot of competitive miles early on, and when some comparisons were made in about, I think about May this year, they said that he had in fact only done 24 days racing against 36 at the same time last year. His actual coursing competition was only 3,484 kilometres against the 5,528 kilometres in 1997. And they looked at the gaps where he had actually finished in the races. He'd been 2 hours and 21 minutes down the leader, had Ulrich, compared with 22 minutes in the year before. So he's had a lot of not enough racing miles, and he had so much weight, he lost it suddenly, and the question was that loss of racing weight going to affect him? And he's now very fit, looks jolly good, Ulrich, but somehow he just doesn't have the zip he had last year or the year before, and of course he's now being attacked by a specialist mountain climber, a sort of tactics we don't see often in the Tour de France.
What about Virenque, Dave? Last year when the Tour de France presentation was made, Virenque said, my comments about the Tour, yes, roll on 99. The Tour 98 is not a great itinerary, it's not hard enough, it's not for a climber. I'm sure he's sitting at home now eating his heart out, unfortunate circumstances beyond his control, but this man here, Pantani, is a mountain climber. He's out there riding his rivals into the ground.
And not only that, Pantani's won the Tour of Italy. You come out that quite tired, although he had an extra week to recover from it, but he's got a very light frame. He's had to get himself back in here. We watched him in the early part of the Tour, didn't we, Steve? In the first, 5-7 days, we thought, Pantani, he's got, he looks very gaunt, he looks very thin. Has he recovered? Has he recovered? No, and in fact, he even said himself he wasn't certain, eh?
Well, I've always said, Dave, that the Giro and the Tour will always go together. There's always enough time between the Giro and the Tour to recuperate. It depends on what you do between the two. I think now that if Pantani can go out there, if he can win the Giro, if he can win the Tour together, it will relaunch, and it'll also encourage other riders to look to doing the doubles again in future years to come, because we're so used to now the last few years riders basically only coming out and riding the Tour de France, and it's just disappointing for cycling fans in itself. So hopefully now with Pantani going out there and winning the Tour, well, he hasn't won it yet, but if he goes out there and if next week in Paris wears the yellow jersey on the Champs-Elysees, hopefully we'll have other riders. The group is 6 minutes 10 seconds now. It's 3 minutes ahead now for Pantani on GC.
And Bobby Julich also moving to second spot. He's going further and further away from Jan Ullrich. We're seeing the Tour de France come alive on a disgustingly dismal day, but the racing is still tremendous. Who would have thought when they came out of Grenoble this morning with the damp and dismal conditions, the rain drizzling down and the riders just promenading out of the town, we'd see such a day which we've seen today. The whole race has erupted all the way through. Never been a moment once they got to the foot of the first climb of the day when there hasn't been some sort of action going on to stimulate the interest of all the followers and the fans along the route. Bedraggled we may be, chilled to the bone we might be, despite this nice glass of warm red wine that's popped over my shoulder to protect us from the elements on the way through. But for the riders here, they've entertained the crowd along the side of the road. They've entertained you on Eurosport on what has been a very bad day. Looking at my watch now, they've been actually racing for 6 hours, and here Pantani riding on to take the yellow jersey. He took the pink jersey in the Tour of Italy. Bobby Julich here, the American, coming up into second spot, and we remember well how Le Monde would dominate the Tour in times to come, but coming back up at him is Michael Bogart at the moment. Bogart this morning on general classification was 3 minutes 29 seconds down on Ulrich, so Bogart could move up. We could see at the end of the day today, Pantani first, Julich second, Bogart third on the general classification. A complete topsy-turvy race we've had, and that's what bike racing is all about. Stephen, you're also saying that it is possible to ride both races, it is possible to do well in both the Giro d'Italia and the Tour of Italy, and for my money the Giro d'Italia this year was a tremendous race, not only the way it came out, but it was very colourful, and the television coverage was absolutely brilliant. Pantani riding under much more difficult conditions than we had in the Tour of Italy when the sun was shining. We fortunately didn't have any snow this year in the Tour of Italy. Much more mountainous race than Alex Zülle said afterward. He didn't realise how hard the climbs were in the Tour of Italy. But certainly you can do the two back to back, as you know, Stephen. And I think for the sport that's good. We've seen more and more international teams and riders going into Tour of Italy. So it's levelling off the Tour de France. At one time we had the Tour de France up here and the Tour of Italy a bit down here, and Tour of Spain back down there. They're beginning to equalise themselves, aren't they?
They are, Dave, of course, but this Tour is for no means over, Dave. tomorrow is a very, very hard stage. The time trial, 2 days from the end. This man here, Ulrich, is suffering today, but tomorrow will be another day. We will see him, I say, tomorrow going out and to show everybody that, okay, yesterday was a bad day, but I can still have good legs. And I can see him going out there tomorrow and blitzing this thing together, this thing to bits, Dave, and isolating Pontani.
So Pantani then, who doesn't have the strongest team in the race, they're quite useful riders, but they also rode a very hard Tour of Italy, and they may not have recovered as well as Pantani, who had the enthusiasm of having the pink jersey in the Tour of Italy, a race that he so not only convincingly won, but he showed in time trialling. The pink jersey makes you go. And right now then Pantani is riding in then to a yellow jersey. And Stephen, you must be enjoying every moment of this.
I am, of course, Dave, and that I rode for 2 years with Pontani, and I had the opportunity of giving a bit of advice here and there on different time trials over the past few years, and I must say he's a great guy. And putting on the yellow jersey today makes me very, very happy.
Well, on the clock I can see 5 hours and 43 minutes and 7 seconds of racing as he comes up towards the finish at Les Deux Alps. And Pantani out the saddle here, coming up towards the finish, and he's going to be very determined to grab every second he can do, because that will aid him when we get to time trial on the flatter stages, when his team will be under pressure from the strength of the Telecom team. 5 hours, 43 minutes and 27 seconds on the clock. It's been very wet all the way through, but certainly Pantani knew what he had to do. He's done it superbly. He's still coming out the saddle. He's not going to sit up and just wave the crowd. He's determined to grab every vital second back, and there on your screen is the clock then to show that Pantani has won the stage into Les Deux Alps from Genoble. 5 hours, 43 minutes and 45 seconds, an average speed of some 33 kilometers per hour. That's around about 20 miles an hour. When you see what they've been over so far, you can just realize that Pantani has shown that mountain climbers can win the Tour de France. Eat your heart out, Richard Verong. Well, that's it for Pantani. We'll wait now with bated breath to see what the gap will be between Marco Pantani and Ulrich. Also between the gap back to Bobby Julich, who'll still be in second spot, with Bogart probably moving up into third, and Ulrich might be dropping down to fourth place overall on the classification. We're looking at on the screen the two riders coming up here, Julich and Bogart. I think we've lost the television coverage further back. Our fixed cameras will show you what's going on. Escartin riding in here to second spot for the Kelme Costa Blanca Eurosport squad on the left-hand side of the screen. Marcy's done a great ride too, Stephen, because that's going to keep him in that polka dot jersey. That's quite a change again for Tour de France. Who would have said when we started that a casino rider will be in the polka dot jersey as late as this part in the programme?
Especially with Massey not being knowing as being a kind of a fabulous climber. Like, he had the jersey because he's been riding a very clever race, and he had a very good break the other day when he won the stage. But today, what he's done today, getting away early on, holding off the back group, riding the stage that he's done, like, I cannot see anybody getting that jersey off him between now and Paris.
Well, Marcy, another of those riders who's come good late in his career. He's what, about 31, 32 years of age, and spent a lot of time racing with the Italian team, the Domestic. He had a very bad crash a few years ago, which put back his program, and he had to fight his way back through smaller teams, and then Casino spotted him, put him onto the rostrum, and now he's taken second spot, more points in the polka dot jersey competition, and just coming in ahead of that very specialist climber, Escartin of the Kelme team.
Oh, Dave, this guy must be the hero of the stage. Out there for what, 160k or thereabouts?
He went on the first climb up the Col de la Croix de Fay. He must have gone after 50 kilometres. He's done about 140 kilometres on his own. Well, not on his own, but out with the leading group. So that's about 80 miles he's done, either on his own or with the leading group, and he's still powering up here for Cofidis. So it's going to be a toss-up, I think, between the Kelme Costa Blanca Eurosport team and the Cofidis team as to who gets the team award today, because a lot of Cofidis riders still coming up. We know that Serrano for the Kelme team was also in that leading group at one time, but they've got strength in depth here, Cofidis, today, and they could well take the team award today and be moving up on the overall general classification for teams. Brilliant ride then for Renaro to come in 5 hours 43:45 was the time. He's just under 3 minutes back from the leader of the day, Marco Pantani, and still down the mountain. Ulrich trying to minimise the deficit, because he'll bounce back all right. He's got a strong team. He's not going to give this one up without a fight. And I'm sure that the whole of Germany were rooting for this young man, and the battle between him and Pantani is going to rage for the next few days. It isn't over yet by any means, but for the yellow jersey for Pantani, another stage victory. That's his 6th stage victory Tour de France, but this one I'm sure he'll remember a lot longer than the others, because that's given him the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. What a day, Stephen.
Yeah, well, he is now some 40 seconds in the yellow jersey, so, and Ulrich is not yet in. So there's going to be 3 minutes difference between Pantani and Ulrich when Ulrich finally does cross the line.
But that means it's not over yet, because we were discussing the other night about what sort of gap between the two of them for the time trial stage, and we were talking about it has to be at least 5 minutes. If it's 3 or less, he hasn't got a chance. If it's nearer to 5, he has a chance. If he goes over 5, it has. So he's got to do it not only today, he may have to do some pulling back tomorrow too.
Yeah, definitely. He'll have to do something today. But I can see him even tomorrow having a go. There's going to be some guys going away early, that's for sure. So on the Madeleine, I can see a group going away, being away, and Pantani having to react himself and take the whole thing in his hands, because I can see him being isolated tomorrow, very much so, because his teammates are not very strong for the mountains.
Well, this race has really got people rocking. The whole of the commentary booths are on side here, but it's just completely astounded by the performance today of all these riders, including then the Cofidis team, who've really ridden so hard. Bobby Julich likewise for Cofidis, who start this morning in 2nd place behind Jan Ulrich. It looks like he's going to swap leaders, but he's going to punch a big hole. This man could be a threat overall if Pantani doesn't get the 5 or 6 minutes he wants. And we know Julich can do a good time trial, and he can still climb with the best of them too. So if he sticks like glue to Pantani tomorrow and the few days after that, then this man may be the threat for the yellow jersey into Paris at the end of the tour. He's ridden a super race today, but except for that one misdemeanor when he crashed on the way down the gallop, fortunately without any major trouble to him. And I've been tipping this lad for a long time, haven't I, Stephen? So I got my fingers crossed for him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to press the button now when he comes across here to see what the gap is back to Ulrich, because that I think is going to be a significant one. I'm not in any way knocking Pantani's performance, but as Ulrich here plows his bike, he's zigzagging all over the place. He's so determined, again, like Pantani, to get as much time as he can do out of the previous yellow jersey, Jan Ulrich, because Ulrich has not lost this tour yet. There's still a long way to go, and the sort of terrain where his team Telecom can control and triumph things, and he's still got that undulating time trial, and we know how powerful he is in the time trials, that in reality it's going to be very difficult indeed to predict the result of this race, despite the lead. Look at this, over 6 minutes now, so Pantani's got a good 3 minutes.
3 minutes and 50 or thereabouts ahead.
A brilliant ride then, and now we're looking at Jean-Cyril Robin for the US Postal team coming in here. They also said that he would get a nice little position overall in the Tour de France. They're moving up now. We're seeing so many new names in the Tour this year that it's going to be an absolutely wonderful run in from now to Paris, because there's a lot of blokes in there still want to attack, still want to get further up General Classic, still want to make this race live a lot longer in people's memories.
That's 2k to go, Dave. Ulrich was 2 minutes behind Julich.
Was he? Well, I've got the watch running now, and it's coming up to a minute.
Luc Leblanc there as well, Dave. But Dave, we were saying in the Pyrenees, we're disappointed with the attitude of the riders, not actually getting in there and fighting and attacking Ulrich. Today, I think we must take all that back. Today was an incredible stage. We saw some fabulous racing.
I've got the watch running on the gap between Bobby Julich and Jan Ulrich. This is Bobby Julich coming in. Look at the spray fly. Now you imagine what this is doing. See that spray coming up now? They ride into that spray, the riders behind. It goes all over the face. They've been doing it all day now for some 5 3/4 hours of racing. And look what the conditions these riders have to put up. They're soaked through to the skin, and they're still soldiering on these chaps. They've gone all those mountains, and we're looking at the unsung heroes too, people we haven't seen on television in the race so far. And way down the mountainside, a lot more riders will be battling to stay inside the time limit. And when they're going to get in, they're also going to be astounded, I think, by the racing performance for today. But whilst we're watching the top men come in, bear in mind for those people further back down the field who are not going to finish up in the top 50, top 60, top 70 of the Tour. They're just going to soldier on to try and survive into Paris. And conditions like this just shows you what guts these racing cyclists have got. Well, there, I think it says it all, Stephen, the way that Rees looked back at Ulrich, eh?
Yeah, looking at the look on Ulrich's face there, he's not good. But he can come back tomorrow and do a good stage again.
The gap then, 2 minutes 32 on my watch now, coming up to 2:40, and if it gets near to 3 minutes, then Ulick in the time trial might have a job if he starts to close up and try and get Bobby Ulick out. And again, likewise from Pantani, he's now 5 minutes adrift, and we said 5 to 6 minutes might be enough for Pantani. So Ulrich has got to start attacking tomorrow and the next day. He's got to start attacking the yellow jersey rather than defending it.
I say he can, Dave. I don't know whether he'll be able to get it back off or not, but I'm definitely sure Ulrich should be on the attack tomorrow.
So as he comes in then, we can see the determination of the telecom team to support him all the way they can do. They're not ridden away and dropped him off and left him down the mountainside. He's coming at the moment behind Pantani at 8 minutes and 59 seconds. Nearly 9 minutes down on Pantani. 3 minutes and 15 seconds down on Bobby Ulick. The Tour de France stage has been turned upside down in terms of the general classification today. Looking again at Marco Pantani, who's turned the Tour up on its ears, something in excess of nearly 9 minutes between him and Ulrich, so he's now going nearly 6 minutes on the previous yellow jersey. The race is now set for a cracking day tomorrow, and you can be seeing it on Eurosport with myself, David Duffield, and Stephen Rose. But we're going to take a short break. Hang on in there.
It's 2 minutes break now.
Pilsner aus dem Herzen der Natur.
Mein Junge, mein Stolz, meine Altersvorsorge.
Rechnen Sie lieber mit uns. Sparkassen Privatvorsorge.
Der neue Vario-Schleifer von Bosch. Starker Abtrag, selbst wenn's eng wird. Bosch. Genial einfach. Einfach genial.
A box. Another box. Another one. Some boxes have some things you don't expect. Scenic PCs with Pentium 2 processors, for instance, have an infrared interface, a chip card reader, ISDN communication tools, customized solutions. Siemens Nixdorf, personal computers. Mit D2 können Sie in über 65 Ländern mobil telefonieren. Wenn Sie was zu erzählen haben. D2 Privat von Mannesmann Mobilfunk. Der eine hat's, der andere nicht.
The crowd has just erupted as Pantani's come up onto the victory rostrum to take the flowers to denote that he's won the stage today from Grenoble to Les Deux Alpes. That gives him the stage victory, but even more so, there'll be great enjoyment too when he comes up for the award for the yellow jersey, which he certainly has got then. This diminutive little climber has pounded his Bianchi bike up the climb here, and I was saying earlier on that we came over the big Galibier race, a climb that was run by Fausto Coppi in 1952, and Coppi went on to win the climb up the Alps, which is just across the valley from us in 1952, the first time that was used, and he went on, as you know, he was a winner of the Tour de France, and now Pantani on this new climb here. I wonder if we're going to see precedents being set as he now goes away, congratulated by Bernard, who must be also, as you are, Stephen, absolutely elated with the performance of this chap, eh?
Definitely, a fabulous performance. Like, when you see that the hard luck Pantani has had over the last couple of years, having unbelievably spectacular crashes and breaking legs, fracturing it in 3 or 4 places, collarbones, arms and everything else, being in a coma for a couple of weeks as well, coming back and riding the way he's ridden here, the Tour of Italy the other week, and then here now the Tour de France this week.
Well, there we are, taking the yellow jersey. As I say, 1952, Fausto Coppi took the stage at Alpe d'Huez for the first time. They used the Alpe d'Huez just across the way from where we're sitting now. We've just used this climber that does out for the first time, and Pantani's repeated the process. Coppi also took the climb of the Col de Galibier that year. Has history going to repeat itself then, as Pantani gets the Klisevik. He's in yellow. Yet another change in the yellow jersey. We've had so many changes since this race set up. We had Bowman in yellow, Zabel in yellow, Hamburger in yellow, O'Grady in yellow, Ulrich in yellow, Davian in yellow, O'Grady, Ulrich went back into yellow, and now Pantani. We've had no less than 8 different riders, or 8 different yellow jerseys.
And who knows, Dave, is it finished?
Super League.
Freakish weather conditions, defective parts, impenetrable mysteries. Another chance to see the first series of Black Box, Wednesdays at 9.
Postal, De Grandi's in the whitish-coloured jersey. A couple of Telecom riders just about hanging on at the back there, but they're going to feel pretty happy that their champion has found his legs again. Well, so far, and he just has done it now, Julik finally looks over his shoulder. He's not going to let Pantani see just how hard he is trying right now, but I believe he wants to see if anybody except Pantani has hung on to the back, and the answer is they haven't. He's ridden Peopley off. He's also ridden off Escartine, who was up to 3rd overall. Julik, there's still no sign of Julik recovering from this body blow right now, but he has set himself a tremendous challenge here today, and this is like the old Tours de France, you know, in the days of Eddy Merckx and the battles of Raymond Poulidor and Jacques Anquetil. This is becoming very personal now between these two. There's Bobby Julik. He still looks pretty cool, and he's just holding himself in position right now. Roland Meyer, the great pacemaker, who's climbed up to a high place overall himself in the mountains. He's prepared to set the pace as long as he possibly can. De Grande is the rider in 3rd place. Well, he's in 4th at the moment, having a drink, and Bogert, the Dutchman, also in this group. Well, we're looking down now on the Maillot Jaune, Marco Pantani and Jan Ullrich, and just ahead of them now are the 2 riders who were part of that 3-man breakaway and have been for most of the day, Ralph Aldag and Andrei Teteriuk, and they're not going to try and get on this train, I don't think, Paul.
Well, Rolf Aldag has, in fact, he's accelerated. He wants to try and help his teammate Jan Ullrich as much as possible. This, Phil, is a real do-or-die effort. He's going to try and pull the pace up just a little bit more, give Ullrich a little bit of a breather, and then he'll try and attack once again.
Well, Telecom must have spent an awful lot of time last night behind closed doors, making their idea up for today's tactics. And it was obviously the orders were for Aldag to go in the early breakaway, which he did. He fell back from Stefan Erlo at the start of this climb today, soon afterwards, and now he's been picked up by Ullrich, and I'm absolutely amazed that Aldag can lift the pace up.
Around about 7 kilometers to go to the summit of the climb, Phil, and Aldag really has dug deep into his reserves to try and do something this afternoon for Jan Ullrich, because he realizes this might be one of the last times that he can actually put Marco Pantani into difficulty.
Well, the Teteriuk, the Kazakh, he just got blown away in the background there, as the Pirate just hangs on to 2 Telecoms now, so his problems have doubled in the last 100 meters. Still up ahead is Stefan Erlo, but we're catching him slowly but surely. And, well, this is a swan song from the very, very brave Rolf Aldag. He's going to go as hard as he can to give Ullrich a breather, and then he's going to hang on to the end of today's stage of the Tour de France.
Aldag has looked in difficulty on every climb so far this afternoon, but the fact that he saw his own teammate come up alongside him gave him some inspiration. But now Ullrich has taken over. That was the breather he wanted, and again he's accelerated.
Again, he accelerated. I wasn't too sure whether he had a little problem with his gear either there. He looked down, he sat back in the saddle rather quickly. Aldag now has left his team captain to try and recover the yellow jersey for the squad. But I think the Pirates turned into something of a limpet, and he's hanging on well. Pantani now sitting behind Jan Ullrich. It's not his job to attack. He's got the Maillot Jaune. That was his job yesterday. Now he's trying to control a very, very much recovered Jan Ullrich. And look at the gap. They've closed 5.5 minutes down, Paul, and it's just taken half the length of the Col de Madeleine to do all the damage when they've been ahead for some hours.
Unbelievable. But that just goes to make you realize how difficult it is to climb these mountains. You can lose around about 1 minute every kilometer on a climb like this, whereas on a time trial, a flat road, you can probably lose only 1 minute every 10 kilometers. That is why these riders have managed to bridge such a huge gap in a short distance of time.
In fact, it looks here as though Stefan Erlo is really feeling the pace now on the Col de Madeleine, and he's just trying to hang on to his little bit of a lead. He might well still be able to stay with those two when they pick him up, hopefully for him, just before the summit, because once over the top, well, it's all downhill. Basically, it's around about 44 kilometers to the finish on the top of the Col de Madeleine, and there could be big time gains looking around the corner. It's not going to be long now before we see the two of them put Erlo in their sights.
Race radio telling all of the cars behind the leader, Stefan Erlo, to get out of the gap because the two chasers are closing in rapidly.
And remember that all of the work being done by number 1, Jan Ullrich, because Pantani's job now is to follow. Ullrich launched an attack virtually from the bottom of the climb with a fierce piece of acceleration. Pantani was alert, jumped on the wheel, and that's where he's been ever since. Just a few motorbikes and a couple of cars, and around that corner we have the leader, Stefan Erlo, 55 seconds the gap. 2 minutes 27 seconds now back to the group Julich. So that is going to really do a lot of damage today. Ullrich can be slowly but surely climbing back into at least second place in the Tour de France.
Started this morning off 5 minutes 56 seconds behind, almost 2 minutes behind Bobby Julich, and the time gaps he's getting this afternoon could drag him right back up into second place above the American.
Well, that's where he is right now. 2 minutes 12 is the difference between Ullrich and Bobby Julich. So Julich, who survived in the run-up spot, albeit behind a different leader yesterday, is now losing that second place overall to Jan Ullrich.
Stefan Erlo now really suffering at the top of this climb. You can see it's very difficult to keep the pace high. Once he goes round these corners, he looks over to see if he can see the shadow of the two men chasing him, and now they're in the same straight as he is.
Well, Stefan Erlo was first over the top of the Col de Porte this morning after 37 kilometers ahead of Aldag and de Terriac. And until now, he has been bounding through the mountains. He was also first over the top of the Col de Coucheron, second over the Col de Granier, and then won the climb of the Col de Grand Coucheron. And now he's about to be caught here by the two top riders in the Tour de France. I wonder what he's thinking, Paul, when he thinks, my goodness me, that's Ullrich.
That's the big train, that's the TGV, the Train Grand Vitesse, and I don't think I've got a ticket for this, because this is going to be some ride between Jan Ullrich and Marco Pantani, and still Ullrich accelerating, trying to wear down the climber, hoping that he can crack him before the summit.
Well, there's still a lot of climbing to be done here, but we're watching now the top two riders of the 1998 Tour de France, and Jan Ullrich has got rather angry at having his maillot jaune taken off his shoulders by Marco Pantani, and he's going to do everything in his power to get it back. We are going to be in for some time trial on Saturday.
I make it the point of the race here now, a town called Le Ponte, which would give them another 6 kilometers to go to the summit, 4 miles, and still Jan Ullrich trying to put Marco Pantani under pressure, and the Pirate all the time, Phil, is having to accelerate, get out of the saddle to just stay in the slipstream of the big German challenger.
So Ullrich continues to climb up the Col de la Madeleine and still makes the pace, and Pantani still follows. Back at the main field here now, 2¼ minutes down the main field. The main chase group is better description. 2¼ minutes down. Bogart has got to try and help them get back into the action. Pipoli, Escartine, Bobby Julich, Bjarne Riis, and that is the group now. Well, just look at the face now of Jan Ullrich. He has led all of the way up the Col de la Madeleine. He has never looked or asked for any help from Marco Pantani, who is just hanging on to this young man again. Well, he's proved himself today, Paul, to be more than just a champion.
He's proved himself to be one of the great champions for the future, because to come back after such a difficult day yesterday, he really has fought like a true champion.
A massive crowd on the Col de la Madeleine, and Jan Ullrich, the deposed leader of the Tour, is carrying up Marco Pantani towards the summit of the climb. And what a great ride this has been. I think he might be upset he never got rid of Pantani. Pantani will certainly be relieved because now it's all downhill towards the finish. And so really at the end, Pantani has probably psychologically done well today.
Ulrich not making the mistake he made yesterday. He's looking for a thermal jacket to put on this afternoon for the descent. I do feel that not putting a raincoat on yesterday had a big effect on him physiologically because he did suffer from the cold. You can see now he's taking the time to dress himself up warmly for what is going to be an 18-mile descent.
Well, more time still required by Jan Ullrich to claim that runners-up spot, at least for the time being in the Tour de France. But this Tour de France won't lie down, so goodness knows how long he'll stay there for. Pantani is going to stay with him. Pantani descends very, very well indeed. We've always suggested Jan Ullrich isn't quite the same as a descender as he is a climber, so the advantage may be back with Little Italian now. But this is quite a difficult descent, isn't it?
It's a very tricky descent. You see these bends here, and the problem is there are so many spectators. There are cars on all of the bends here, so you have to be so careful not to lose it at all, because if you do, there's going to be a very hard landing. You can see Ullrich now has improved a lot in his descending ability, and I think last year the reason he descended so badly was because he was a little worried wearing the yellow jersey on his shoulders.
As we go back to the last few meters of the climb of the Col de la Madeleine. So it looks to be about 2:04 with Leonardo Pipoli coming over the top, and Massey, the King of the Mountains leader, not in the lead group today, although he's got quite a big lead in that competition. They're over the top of the Col, and the chase is on for the finish. I don't think they'll catch him.
Now, if you ever have the privilege of dining with Phil Liggett, you'll undoubtedly hear him say at some point during the evening that between them, he and Paul Sherwin have ridden 7 Tours de France. Now, technically, of course, that's true, although if you subtract Phil's contribution, the number's still 7. And having done that number on the bike, along with 13 for Channel 4, Paul this year reached his 20th. And since the Tour is a fairly close-knit community, anyone who puts in 20 years is given a medal to mark the occasion. Paul got his the other morning in Tarascon from race director General Jean-Marie Leblanc, and he was in pretty good company too, because Bernard Hinault was also celebrating 20 Tours. Having won 5 of them, Bernard got a cake as well, with strangely a couple of ceremonial distress flares in it and a stuffed manifestation of his nickname, the Badger. Luckily for Paul, his nickname can't be represented by a stuffed animal, protected species or otherwise. And having had a laugh at Phil's expense, I should point out that he's one of the Tour's most senior commentators, only 4 years shy of his 30-year medal. Let's go back to him.
Well, thanks, Gary, but you don't have to remind me. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have missed these last 2 days in the Tour de France. They have been simply superb. And today we've seen the return of Jan Ullrich. He is still on the front on the way down the Col now. And Marco Pantani is just sitting in there behind him. We have reached speeds of almost 100 kilometers an hour. But all of a sudden, the mountain has become a little bit more testing than that now as it's twisting and turning. And the group behind is still just over 2 minutes behind, so they're actually descending almost as quickly as these two.
It's hovering around the 2-minute 10-second mark at the moment, and Jan Ullrich has been on the front since he attacked on the climb. He's always put the pressure on, and now he's been on the front all the way down the descent as well. No help at all coming from Marco Pantani, but that's only logical because Pantani is the leader of the Tour, and the jersey, the man who's trying to challenge him is Jan Ullrich.
Well, at 20 kilometers to go, the Julich group was 2 minutes 12 seconds. At 10 kilometers to go, the Julich group 2 minutes 12 seconds. You could say they are locked at equal distance now, and Julich and the group looking to pull back. Just 10 seconds would do to keep Julich in second overall.
For that 10 seconds, in fact, the 2 minutes that he's losing to Jan Ullrich this afternoon could be very costly indeed, because Julich is inferior to Jan Ullrich when it comes back to the final time trial before we get to Paris. So really, he should not have let Ullrich get away like this, and it's really affecting his chances of getting to the podium, because then he's going to end up in a battle for 3rd place.
Well, I'm just wondering if Ullrich will just try one more cheeky attack from behind Pantani as they run into the finish, or whether he'll just be content now to arrive with the Pirate in Albeville and try and just take the stage off him. Sitting at the back of this group, Stefan Erlo. And right up at the front, the responsibility of driving it is Bobby Julich now, fighting to hold on, at least for another day, to his 2nd place overall.
Pantani goes under the banner there, indicating 2 kilometers remaining, and I'm sure he was fairly surprised when that attack came on the slopes of the Col de la Madeleine, because he probably expected the attacks to come from Team Cofidis and Bobby Julich, but it came in the shape of this man, Jan Ullrich. Most people thought yesterday he would have laid down his arms and he was defeated, but he came back and fought back like a real champion.
And now into the barriers. That tells the riders they're running out of kilometres on today's stage of the Tour de France. 1:58. Bobby Julich just got back into second place overall in the Tour de France, if he can hold on to that time gap to the finish. So they are being drawn towards the line here in that second group, while it looks as though Jan Ullrich at last is beginning to slow down just that little bit, and he should be, because he's been absolutely superb today.
That's what he's been waiting for. The banner across the road there indicating just 1 kilometre remains on this stage of the Tour de France, and now he must be thinking about how he will accelerate to make sure he can guarantee a stage victory.
Now, what will happen here? Will the Pirate just sit up and allow Julich to take the day? Because he's certainly been the man of the stage, just as Marco Pantani was yesterday. But Marco Pantani is accelerating through now, and Jan Ullrich takes his wheel. This might be just a little show of defiance by Marco Pantani, and Bobby Julich's group still closing in. He's chiseled off another second.
Good move by Ullrich. What he's done now is he's forced Pantani to come to the front. He wants the Italian to lead out for the last few hundred metres, because once he sees the line, Ullrich is going to open up the gas, and I'm sure victory will go to him.
I think there's a smile there. No, it's just a grimace on Pantani's face, because they went side by side for a moment. Pantani's got his slipstream. He might still try and go round him yet as they run up towards the line now. Jan Ullrich only once before has won a road race stage in the Tour de France. That was last year in Andorra when he raced to the yellow jersey of the Tour. He never lost it then. He went on to win it, but now Pantani is going to challenge Jan Ullrich, and he might well get the stage win here. Jan Ullrich gritting his teeth. Marco Pantani is taking him on, but now comes Jan Ullrich, and that was just too much, as now Jan Ullrich tries to come up to the line. Pantani's kicked again. The Pirate is unbelievable, but in the end, Jan Ullrich is back in the Tour de France. Well, what an incredible sprint finish. Certainly there's no presence coming from Pantani there. So the chase group now under 1 kilometre to go, and looking for 2 minutes and 3 seconds if Bobby Julich is to hold on to his second place, or is it going to pass back to Jan Ullrich, who will now become the #1 challenger again in the Tour de France. Very quick stage today now as the sprinters start to warm up.
Now's the time when they start to lose time over Jan Ullrich and Marco Pantani, who've crossed the line, because they're thinking about sprinting for third position here. That's when you'll lose the vital seconds. But I think for Bobby Julich, it's going to be safe. It's his teammate Raniero coming to the front to keep the pace high, with Axel Merckx there in second place.
So Raniero leading Bobby Julich towards the finish. The clock, as long as it stops inside 2:03, means Julich lives to fight another day here. They swing up now towards the home straight. Well, Raniero has been a marvellous teammate to Julich. He's thinking only of keeping the pace and not the sprint, as Escartine goes for the line. Well, Escartine has never thought of a sprinter, but he's certainly going to try one here, and even Michael Bogert can't get on terms with him. Bobby Julich is going to chase him down, but Fernando Escartine looks good here for third place on the stage, and he looks over. Bobby Julich's going to try and defy him. They come up to the line, Julich and Escartine, 1:50 it looks like. That means Julich stays second in the Tour de France for now. And this is the sprint between Pantani and Jan Ullrich. And Ullrich came off the wheel of Pantani. It looked easy, and then the Pirate decided to challenge him to the line. It was close, wasn't it? So Ullrich gets his stage win, and at least as far as that goes, he now equals Marco Pantani with 2 stage wins apiece. So it wasn't a big sprint win in the end, was it? Just a little bit in front of Marco Pantani, but Jan Ullrich got the day and is very much back in this year's Tour de France. Bobby Julich bringing the chasing group home for third place ahead of Escartine and Axel Merckx, and the time gap 1 minute 48 seconds. So Julich keeps his second place overall, 5 minutes 42 seconds behind Pantani. Escartino loses third now as Jan Ullrich climbs up 1 place. He's now in that third slot. The last day in the Alps tomorrow. There are 2 first category climbs